You are 18 years old when the sound of iron-shod hooves echoes through the valley, carrying you toward a destiny you never asked for but cannot avoid. The air smells of damp earth and pine, heavy with the chill of early spring. Your leather boots are scuffed from days on the road, and your armor, though polished for the occasion, still bears scratches from training. It's not the armor of a seasoned warrior, but that of a knight whose story is only beginning. The castle rises before you like something pulled from a legend. Its walls are not just stone, but centuries of history, of blood, of power. Tall towers pierce the sky, their banners whipping in the cold wind, each one bearing the royal crest, a golden lion on a crimson field. The flags catch the sunlight, flashing like fire. For a moment, you pause at the sight. This is no simple fortress. This is the heart of the kingdom and your new home. As you approach, the gates groan open, pulled by chains as thick as your arm. The sound is low and mournful, as if the castle itself sighs in warning. The guards at the gate watch you with narrowed eyes, their spears gleaming like teeth. You adjust your posture, trying to hide your unease. You are here because the king has called for fresh knights to serve his court, and because your father, once a soldier of some renown, secured you this place. You owe your family this chance, but deep inside, your heart beats too fast, and not from pride. Castles are not homes. They are cages built of stone. The first step across the threshold feels heavier than the last 100 miles combined. The ground beneath you is paved with cold flagstones, worn smooth by the boots of countless men and women who walked before you. Warriors, nobles, traitors, and ghosts. You can almost hear them whispering, their footsteps echoing in the great courtyard. The courtyard itself is vast, flanked by stables on one side and barracks on the other. Horses stamp their hooves and snort clouds of breath into the air. Blacksmiths hammer iron into sparks, their rhythmic strikes ringing like church bells. Servants hurry past with baskets of bread and bolts of cloth, each one avoiding your eyes as if the sight of a new night is nothing worth, noticing you are both invisible and watched. And somehow you feel both truths at once. An older knight greets you, his face as weathered as the stones of the wall. His armor is dented, and his gaze is sharp. "You're late," he mutters, "though you know you're not. It's a test, a simple way to remind you that here, in the shadow of kings and queens, you are nothing yet." You bow your head in respect, and he leads you into the barracks. The smell of oil, steel, and sweat hits you instantly, the scent of duty. He speaks of routines, drills, and watch rotations, but your mind drifts, because as you follow him deeper into the castle, you pass the great hall. The doors are carved oak, tall as trees, and etched with scenes of battles long past. Inside, you catch a glimpse of chandeliers made of iron, each one holding dozens of flickering candles that cast a soft, golden glow over the hall. At the far end, upon a throne of dark wood and gold, sits the king himself. You barely see his face, just the flash of a crown, the sweep of a heavy cloak. He is a mountain of a man, broad-shouldered, speaking in low tones with his advisors, and beside him sits the queen. For a moment, you forget yourself. She is unlike anyone you've ever seen. Her gown shimmers like liquid moonlight, a pale silver that catches every flame's reflection. Her hair, braided with pearls, tumbles over her shoulders like silk. But it is not her beauty that strikes you hardest. It is her expression, poised, distant, but tinged with something you cannot name. Sadness, perhaps, or longing. Her eyes, deep and bright, sweep over the hall, and then, impossibly, they meet yours. It is only a heartbeat, a glance, but in that brief second, the hall seems to fall silent. You feel as if the air has left your lungs. You lower your eyes quickly, as you should. She is the queen. You are nothing more than a new knight with mud on your boots. And yet, that look, it burns itself into your memory. The older knight nudges you forward. Keep moving, he says gruffly, but there is no anger in his voice. Perhaps he saw it too. That fleeting connection, or perhaps you only imagined it. The rest of the day is a blur. You're shown your quarters, a small room with a wooden cot, a narrow window, and a chest for your armor. The walls are bare, the air cold. You sit on the bed, staring out at the courtyard below. The queen's face keeps rising in your mind, her distant gaze, like a candle flickering in the dark. Outside, the bells toll the evening hour. Servants light torches along the battlements, and the castle slowly shifts into night. You can hear faint music from the great hall, a lute, perhaps, and soft laughter. But you will not be part of that world. Tonight, not ever. Knights guard the queen. They do not dream of her. And yet, as you lie down on the hard cot, you realize that you already are. The first light of dawn creeps into your small chamber like a shy intruder, cold and pale as the castle itself. You wake not to comfort, but to duty. There is no soft bed, no warm hearth, only the stiff weight of your wool blanket and the iron tang of your armor waiting in the corner. The castle doesn't care if you slept poorly or dreamt of home. When the bells toll, you rise. The castle yard is alive with the breath of morning. Mist curls low over the cobblestones, carrying the smell of damp hay, horse sweat, and wood smoke from the kitchens. The other knights are already out, some polishing shields until they gleam, others sharpening their blades with rhythmic strokes of a whetstone. A few exchange low-clipped words, the kind of conversations that mean little but say everything. You learn quickly that a knight's life here is not about glory or grand speeches. It is about discipline, a glance, a nod, the precise angle of a salute. These things matter more than any ballad sung about heroics. Your duties are explained by Sir Aldrich, the older knight who first greeted you. His voice is rough as a whetstone, every word worn from years of battle and court politics. Dawn drill, midday watch, evening patrol. He recites as though these are the pillars holding up the sky. You will serve where you are told, stand where you are posted, and keep your mouth shut unless spoken to. A knight's silence speaks louder than his sword. It's not what you imagined when you dreamed of knighthood as a child. You pictured shining tournaments, the roar of crowds, the honor of a queen's favor pinned to your chest. Here, the glory is buried under layers of mud and stone. You train until your shoulders ache, your muscles screaming, with the weight of a sword that feels heavier each time you raise it. You hold your stance in the courtyard, rain soaking through your cloak, until Aldrich finally nods in approval. You've got the arms of a blacksmith, he mutters, but a knight needs a spine of steel and a heart that doesn't waver. We'll see if you've got that. Life in the castle moves with a rhythm older than any man living within its walls. Every hour has a purpose, every space a rule. The kitchens burst into life before sunrise, the smell of bread, baking wafting through narrow stone halls. Servants scurry across the courtyards, carrying baskets of eggs and flour, their faces downturned, their steps quick. You learn that to linger in a corridor too long invites suspicion. This is a place where eyes are everywhere. Guards at the doors, maids by the windows, advisors lurking in shadowed alcoves. Your first days are spent, mostly on the battlements. From up there, the world looks both wide and small. The village, beyond the castle walls, is waking. Thin trails of smoke rising from chimneys. The river glitters in the early sun, its current carrying whispers of markets and harvests. Yet here, within the castles, stone embrace, life feels caged. You take turns patrolling with other knights, learning their names, their habits. Some are older, veterans of wars you've only heard in stories. They carry their scars like badges, each mark a tale they will never tell. Others are young like you, eager but restless, their gazes always straying toward the great hall, where power lives and breathes. At midday, you're stationed near the chapel. Bells ring out as priests in simple robes pass by, their chants echoing through the corridor. The queen often attends prayers here, you are told, though you haven't seen her since that fleeting glance on your first day. Still, the thought of her lingers like a whisper in your mind, uninvited but impossible to ignore. Late one afternoon, your path crosses hers again. You are standing guard outside the great hall as a small procession of servants passes by, carrying trays of golden goblets and fresh-cut flowers. Then, without warning, the hall doors open and she steps out. The queen, her presence is like sunlight spilling into a dark room. She is dressed in a gown of deep emerald green, embroidered with threads of gold that catch the light like tiny flames. A thin circlet rests on her brow, not as heavy as the king's crown, but no less commanding. Yet it's her eyes that strike you once more. She does not look through you, as the nobles often do with soldiers and servants. She looks at you, just a brief, passing glance, but enough to make your chest tighten. Her expression is composed, but there's a shadow behind her gaze, something weary, as if the walls of this castle press as heavily on her as they do on you. You lower your eyes, as protocol demands. You are just a knight, another faceless guard in steel and leather. But after she passes, you can feel your pulse still racing, as if her glance left a mark on you as real as any wound. Evenings in the castle are louder, filled with the hum of life. The great hall glows with candlelight, the sounds of laughter and music drifting through the corridors. You are never invited inside. Your place is by the doors, unseen, ensuring no harm comes to those within. But sometimes, when the doors open briefly, you catch glimpses of the world you can never enter. Long tables laden with roasted meats and spiced wine, minstrels plucking soft tunes on lutes while nobles in bright silks exchange gossip. And at the head table, the king and queen, the king's booming voice commands attention, but your gaze, traitorous and unstoppable, always seeks her. You see the queen's smile, but it is a polite smile, never reaching her eyes. You wonder if anyone else notices how alone she looks, even in a room full of people. When your shift ends, you return to your small chamber. Your body is tired from standing for hours, your armor still heavy even after you remove it. You stretch out on the narrow cot and stare at the ceiling beams. You should be thinking of your duty, of the drills and orders that await tomorrow. But instead, your mind drifts to the queen, to the way her gown shimmered like emerald fire, to the look in her eyes that felt like a secret. Days turn into weeks, and you settle into the rhythm of castle life. But something has changed inside you. Each morning, as you don your armor, you feel an undercurrent of anticipation, not for duty, not for honor, but for the chance of seeing her again, even if only for a fleeting moment. The castle, with all its cold walls and rigid rules, now feels like a place of silent stories. Every corridor you walk seems to hold whispers, the rustle of skirts behind closed doors, the faint laughter of court ladies, the echoes of secrets that never see the light of day. And in the midst of all this, you realize you've begun to weave your own secret, a feeling you can't name, a longing that could ruin you if you let it grow. But it is already growing. The days in the castle are long, their hours carved into a rhythm as unyielding as the stones under your boots. But every day begins with the same silent question that coils inside you. Will I see her today, the queen? It's a name you're not meant to think about, not in the way you do. She is the jewel of the court, the untouchable heart of the kingdom, bound by a crown that is both her honor and her prison. Knights are trained to obey, to protect, to never look at the royal family longer than a fleeting moment. But how can you not look? You first truly see her on a quiet, gray morning, when mist clings to the towers like ghostly veils. Your shift takes you to the Eastern Gardens, a rare post given only to those trusted to guard the royal walkways. The garden feels different from the rest of the castle, softer, quieter, with winding stone paths and rose bushes that bloom like drops of blood against the pale morning sky. You hear her before you see her, the faint rustle of silk, the soft murmur of her handmaidens' voices, and then she appears, stepping through an arched doorway framed with ivy. She is not dressed as she was in the great hall, surrounded by gold and firelight. Here, in the cool dawn, she wears a gown of pale blue, the color of winter skies just before the snow. Her hair is braided, simply pinned with small pearls that gleam like drops of morning dew. And for the first time, she does not look like a queen carved from marble and duty. She looks human. The handmaidens keep their distance, carrying baskets of herbs and fresh flowers for the kitchens. She pauses near a cluster of white lilies, running her fingers gently along their petals. Such a small, delicate gesture. Yet, it's enough to make your chest tighten. You're meant to stand like a statue, eyes forward, but you can't stop yourself from watching her. She moves with a quiet grace, each step as soft as the wind, as if the earth itself bends to her presence. You realize, with sudden clarity, that she is not just beautiful, she is lonely. The weight of her crown is not visible, but it is there, in the stillness of her movements, in the way her gaze lingers on the flowers, as if they are her only companions. As she walks along the path, your eyes meet hers. It is not planned, not even allowed, for a knight to look into the queen's eyes so boldly is close to defiance. Yet when it happens, the world seems to narrow to just the two of you. Her gaze is like nothing you've ever felt, steady, curious, and strangely soft. It lingers, as if she's not looking through you but at you. For a moment, the garden fades. Roses, the mist, the distant chatter of her handmaidens, all of it disappears, replaced by the quiet electricity of that glance. Your throat feels dry. You want to look away, but you can't. It's as if her eyes hold some unspoken question, something you could spend a lifetime trying to answer. Finally, you lower your gaze as protocol demands. A knight should not stare at the queen. A knight is not meant to notice her. Not in this way. But your heart is already pounding in your chest like a war drum. And the mark of that glance is etched into you as surely as if she had carved her name into your skin. The rest of the morning passes in a haze. You follow her procession back to the castle steps. Every muscle in your body tense with the memory of that single stolen moment. She doesn't look back at you again, not once. But as she steps inside, you could swear that her fingers brush the edge of her gown with a slight hesitation, as if she too feels something she cannot name. Later, in the barracks, the older knights speak of battles and feasts, their laughter echoing off the stone walls. But you barely hear them. You're still in the garden, still trapped in that glance. It replays in your mind like a song with no ending. You tell yourself it means nothing. She probably didn't even notice you. Not really. Queens do. Not look at knights the way she looked at you. And yet, when you close your eyes that night, you see her face. You see the way her hair caught the light, the way her lips parted slightly, as if she were about to speak. And you wonder, what would she have said if she could speak freely? In the days that follow, you catch glimpses of her at a distance. In the great hall during banquets, where she sits beside the king with a smile that looks more like a mask. In the chapel, where her head bows in prayer, but her eyes look far away. And always you feel that same pull, that same quiet current that tugs you toward her like a river current beneath the surface of calm water. One evening, as the sun sets and the castle walls glow in the fading light, you find yourself standing guard near the stables. Through an open archway, you see her walking along the terrace above. She doesn't look at you. She doesn't need to. The sight of her, so close yet so untouchable, is enough to leave you breathless. It is in that moment that you realize the truth. You are not just a knight sworn to protect the queen. You are a man, and your heart is no longer yours to command. The queen's life is not her own. It never has been. From the moment she was born, her destiny was carved in gold and blood. She was not raised to laugh freely or run barefoot through fields like other children. She was raised to be seen, raised to sit still in silk gowns, while older women trained her in the delicate art of silence, when to speak, when to smile, when to bow her head. And let men believe she agreed with their words. Every gesture she makes is deliberate, polished, perfected. She is a queen, and a queen is not allowed to be human. Her marriage to the king was not a story of love, but of politics. A union forged between two kingdoms to strengthen borders and secure armies. The wedding feast was grand, tapestries, trumpets, and tables heavy with golden plates. But beneath all the finery, her heart was heavy. She was 17 when she became a wife, too young to understand how a crown can feel, heavier than a chain. The king, her husband, is a man of great ambition, but little tenderness. He rules with a voice like iron and hands that are more used to gripping swords than caressing someone's cheek. He is not cruel, not in the way tyrants are, but he is distant. He looks at her as one looks at a finely carved statue, a thing of beauty, but not of warmth. To him, she is a symbol, a trophy of peace. the mother of heirs he hopes will secure his name in history. But in the quiet hours of the night, when the great halls are dark, and even the guards' footsteps fade into silence, she feels the truth. She is alone. The castle is both her home and her prison. Her days are filled with ceremony, receiving visiting lords, listening to petitions, nodding politely as advisors drone on about taxes and border disputes. Every dress she wears is chosen for her. Every word she speaks is weighed against the expectations of the court. Even her smiles are rehearsed. Not too warm, lest she seem weak. Not too cold, lest she seem arrogant. Her chambers are vast and richly decorated. Velvet curtains, golden candlesticks, and a bed, big enough for 3 people to lie apart and never touch. But all the beauty feels hollow. Tapestries, the jewels, the silver goblets, they do not warm her hands at night. They do not listen when her heart aches. She spends long hours in the royal garden because it is the only place that feels real. Among the roses and ivy, she can almost forget the weight of the crown on her brow. Sometimes, when no one is watching, she removes her shoes and lets the grass touch her bare feet, a fleeting taste of freedom. But even there, the handmaidens linger at a distance, ever watchful. The court adores her, or at least they pretend to. They praise her beauty, her poise, her grace. They whisper of her as the white rose of the kingdom, untouchable and perfect. Behind closed doors, she hears the murmurs of envy, the quiet hissing of gossip. Some say she is cold, others claim she is too proud. None of them see her as she truly is, a young woman trapped in a life chosen for her. At night, she walks to the window of her chamber and gazes down at the courtyard. From here, she can see the knights patrolling the walls, their armor glinting in the moonlight. They are free in ways she is not. They ride into forests, feel the wind against their faces, fight under open skies. She, meanwhile, is confined to rooms heavy with incense and politics. And then one day, she notices you. It is a small moment, almost nothing at all. She is standing in the great hall beside the king, during a courtly feast, her hand resting on the carved arm of the throne. Her gaze drifts across the room, past the lords and ladies, with their jeweled cloaks and sharp tongues. Then her eyes fall upon you, the young knight standing guard near the doors, his stance proud yet humble. For reasons she cannot name, her attention lingers. You are not like the other knights. There is something different in the way you hold yourself. Not arrogant, not jaded, but steady, like a man who knows how to listen to the silence between words. She wonders, for just a heartbeat, what thoughts live behind those guarded eyes. Her handmaidens notice nothing. The king notices nothing, but she notices you, and it is enough to plant the first seed of curiosity. Later that night, as she removes her crown and sits before the mirror, she studies her own reflection. The jewels glitter in her hair, but her eyes, they look tired. She remembers that moment in the hall, the way your gaze briefly met hers before you lowered it. It was nothing, she tells herself. Knights are trained to be attentive. He probably looks at everyone that way, but the memory lingers. In a life where every conversation is rehearsed and every compliment is hollow, there is something disarming about someone who says nothing at all but seems to see her anyway. She goes to sleep with the sound of the king's heavy footsteps in the hallway, the laughter of lords echoing down the corridors. And yet, somewhere In the back of her mind, she bets still in that hall, standing on the dais and seeing you, just for that one stolen heartbeat. The great hall glows like a jewel in the heart of the castle that night. Hundreds of candles flicker in iron chandeliers, their flames casting gold and shadow across the carved wooden beams. The air is warm, heavy, with the mingling scents of roasted meats, spiced wine, and fresh bread. Outside, the night is cold and silent, but inside, the hall is alive with laughter, music, and the rustling of silks. It is the kind of evening where every detail is designed to impress. The tables, draped with linen, the goblets polished to a mirror shine, the platters overflowing with venison and wild boar. You stand at your post near the doors, armor polished and posture straight. From here you can see everything. Lords and ladies in bright gowns and embroidered tunics drift like colorful birds from table to table, their voices weaving a tapestry of gossip and schemes. Minstrels sit near the fire, their fingers plucking soft melodies on lutes and harps, a soundtrack of elegance and intrigue. Servants dart through the crowd, carrying pitchers of wine, filling goblets, and setting down dishes that could feed entire villages. And there, at the head of the hall, is the queen. She sits beside the king, her back straight, her movements as fluid and graceful as a swan gliding across still water. Her gown tonight is the deep red of a sunset, embroidered with gold, thread that catches the light with every shift of her body. A delicate necklace of pearls rests against her pale throat, and her hair is crowned with a simple circlet, less ornate than the king's, but no less regal. Everyone watches her. It is impossible not to, but the attention she receives is not the kind that sees her as a person. To the nobles, she is a symbol of the kingdom's power, a creature to be admired and whispered about. They bow when she looks their way, but their eyes carry the cold gleam of envy. To the king's advisors, she is part of the throne, valuable, yes, but silent, her thoughts invisible beneath the carefully painted expression she wears. But to you, standing quietly in the shadows of the hall, she is something else entirely. At first, you try not to look. It is not your place to stare. Knights are trained to observe the room, not the queen. But your eyes are drawn to her like a flame to kindling. She does not notice you at first, or so you think. She smiles politely at the courtiers who try to engage her, lifting her goblet just enough to sip the wine, but never enough to suggest she enjoys herself. It is a performance she has mastered, one of quiet perfection. And then, as the music softens and a hush falls over the hall, her gaze drifts. It sweeps past the tables, past the flickering candles, past the crowded faces, and lands on you. Your breath catches. You freeze, unsure whether to look away or hold her gaze. But in that moment, she does something unexpected. Her lips part just slightly, as if she's caught by surprise too. Her expression shifts, not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough for you to see it. It's not the gaze of a queen looking at a guard. It's the gaze of a woman who, for just one heartbeat, allows herself to see and be seen. The noise of the hall presses around you. Laughter, the clinking of goblets, the low murmur of the king speaking to his advisors. But all of it feels far away. For those few seconds, it's as though there is no one else in the room, just her, just you. Your armor suddenly feels heavier, your breath louder in your own ears. You lower your eyes quickly, bowing your head slightly, as if in respect, though your heart is hammering against your ribs. Did anyone see? Did she see too? Much in you, you don't know, and you dare not look again. But as the feast goes on, you catch her glancing at you more than once. Each time it happens, you feel that same strange current pass between you, quiet, forbidden, but undeniably real. A hush falls over the hall as the king raises his goblet, making a toast to the coming harvest and the strength of the realm. Everyone raises their cups, voices blending in a single cheer. The queen smiles, as she always does, but when she sets her goblet down, you notice her hand lingers on the stem. Her fingers trace the curve of the glass absently, as if her mind is elsewhere. Perhaps it is. Perhaps it is on you. The food is endless. Roasted pheasants, glazed, apples, loaves of sweet honey bread, but none of it interests you. Your post demands your focus, but your mind is tangled in questions. Why does she look at you that way? Is it curiosity? Loneliness? Something deeper? And why, in the midst of all this wealth and power, does she seem so far away from it all? Toward the end of the feast, as the music swells, you glance toward her again. This time, you are careful. Your eyes meet hers only for a second, but in that second, you swear you see something flicker in her gaze, a warmth, a softness, a quiet recognition that she cannot show anyone else. It feels like a conversation without words, a promise made in silence, and it terrifies you as much as it draws you in. Because this is not just dangerous, it's treasonous. A queen's heart is not yours to hold. Yet, as the hall erupts into applause for the musicians, you know one thing with perfect clarity. This is the moment everything changes. When the king and queen finally rise, the entire hall bows. You lower your head as they pass, your hand resting on the hilt of your sword in a gesture of respect. The king's presence is commanding, but you barely feel it. All you feel is the faint brush of her gown as she walks by, the whisper of silk, the soft scent of something like roses clinging to her as she moves. For a second, just a second, you dare to lift your eyes, and there it is again, that glance, that small, almost imperceptible smile that isn't meant for the court. It's meant for you. By the time she leaves the hall, your heart feels like it's been set alight. The days following the feast feel different. It's not the schedule that remains the same. Dawn, drills, watch duties, the clanging of swords in the courtyard, the endless echo of boots against stone. No, what's changed is something far more dangerous. The awareness. It lingers in your chest like a spark hidden beneath ashes, waiting for a breath to turn it into fire. You try to ignore it. You tell yourself that what happened during the feast, those glances, that silent conversation, was nothing, a moment of foolishness. A queen looks at everyone, doesn't she? But no matter how much you try to rationalize it, the memory refuses to fade. The way her eyes lingered on you, how her fingers trembled slightly when she set down her goblet. It wasn't just politeness, it was something else, something real. And now, every time you see her, even from across a crowded room, it feels as if the rest of the world blurs into shadow, leaving just the two of you. You stand guard in the outer courtyard during the morning hours. It's routine, a post by the gate, watching the servants bustle past, listening to the distant hum of the blacksmith's hammer. The world moves, as it always has, but then the royal doors open, and she steps out. The queen. She moves with her usual grace, flanked by her handmaidens. Her gown today is soft ivory, trimmed with pale gold that catches the sunlight. She walks, slowly, head high, but her eyes, those deep, searching eyes, sweep the courtyard. For the briefest second, they find you. It is not the bold gaze of the feast. This is something quieter. A glance that skims over you like a whisper, almost invisible to anyone else. But you feel it all the same. A prickle down your spine, a warmth in your chest. You straighten unconsciously, as if every fiber of your being wants to be worthy of that one moment. She does not smile, not here, not in front of all these watchful eyes, but there's a softness, a barely perceptible shift in her expression that feels like a secret message. You do not move, you do not speak, but the message lands all the same. I remember. Later that day, you see her again, this time from a distance in the gardens. She sits beneath the arch of an old stone gazebo, her hands folded in her lap as a handmaiden brushes out her hair. Her posture is perfect, her face calm, but there's something about the way her gaze lingers on the horizon that strikes you. You realize, with startling clarity, that despite her crown, she is the loneliest person in this castle, surrounded by people, but seen by no one, adored, but never truly known. You wonder if she ever laughs freely, if she ever allows herself to cry where no one can see. What would her voice sound like if she spoke without fear of judgment? The thought lodges deep in your mind, and you carry it with you through the rest of the day, even as you spar with other knights, even as Sir Aldrich grunts instructions about shield angles and footing. It begins to feel like there's a thread between you, thin as silk, invisible but unbreakable. You find yourself noticing the smallest things about her, the way her hand curls around a quill when she writes letters at the council table, the way she tilts her head slightly when listening to a minstrel's song, the way the late afternoon light turns her hair into threads of fire. You tell yourself it's harmless. You're just a knight observing his queen, but you know that's a lie. Each glance, each memory feels like it's weaving a net around your heart, and every day that net tightens. One evening, you are stationed in the corridor outside the council chamber. The king is inside, speaking in his booming voice about the next campaign at the border. You stand like a statue, eyes forward, every muscle stiff with duty. And then you hear the soft rustle of skirts. She steps out, leaving the heated council meeting behind for a brief breath of air. For a moment, you are alone together, just a knight and a queen in a shadowed hallway lit by torches. She does not speak, neither do you, but her gaze finds yours, and in that silence, 100 things are said. A silent acknowledgement, a question neither of you dares to ask, a dangerous pull that neither of you can stop. She moves past you, the faint scent of lavender trailing in her wake. Your heart is still pounding long after her footsteps fade. By the time you return to your chamber that night, you understand something you didn't before. This is not just admiration. This is not just the harmless awe of a knight for his queen. This is something that could cost you everything. And yet, when you close your eyes, it is her face you see, her eyes, her silence, her unspoken recognition of you. The castle is quiet tonight, but your mind is not. You sit on the edge of your narrow cot, still in your tunic, boots unlaced, staring at the single candle burning on your table. The flame flickers, as if caught between life, and in it you see yourself caught between two impossible paths. Your heart is no longer your own. That much you can admit, even if only in silence. You feel it in the way your breath catches whenever the queen enters a room, in the way your thoughts drift to her even when your sword is raised in training. She is everywhere, woven into the fabric of your days, stitched into the quiet hours of your nights. But a knight's heart is not his to give. You swore your loyalty to the crown, to the king, and loving the queen, even in secret, even silently, is not just forbidden, it is treason. Your knighthood was hard-earned. You remember the day you knelt before the king's steward, your sword laid flat in your hands, the weight of your oath pressing down like armor. You swore to protect the royal family, to live with honor, to serve without question. And you meant every word, but no oath prepares a man for this. The code of chivalry speaks of loyalty, courage, and service, but it says nothing of what to do when your heart rebels, when loyalty and desire are no longer the same thing. You think of the king, a man who commands both respect and fear. He has trusted you with his safety, with his queen's safety, and yet when you see her, when her eyes meet yours, with that quiet, unspoken recognition, it feels as if the very ground beneath you is shifting. During drills, your sword feels heavier, not from fatigue, but from the weight of distraction, sir. Aldrich notices, of course, he sees everything. Your focus is off, he mutters, as your blade clashes against his. A knight who doesn't know where his mind is will lose his head on the battlefield. He doesn't know the truth. He doesn't know that every time you close your eyes to focus, it is her face you see, not an enemy's. That your greatest battle is not against flesh and steel, but against your own heart. At night, when the courtyard is dark and the torches burn low, you find yourself wandering the halls. You pass the great hall, now silent and empty, and glance toward the queen's wing. The doors are shut, guarded, unreachable, and yet your thoughts slip past them as if they were made of air. You imagine her sitting at a writing desk, a candle burning beside her, her hands resting on a letter she will never send. You imagine what she might write if she could speak her truth, if she could tell you the things you feel but cannot say. There is a kind of torture in longing that no rack or blade could match. It's in the quiet moments, when the castle sleeps, when your duties are done, that it hits hardest. The realization that you want something you cannot have, that every glance, every breath near her is a risk you cannot take but cannot avoid. You lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling beams above your bed, the rough wood lit only by moonlight. Your fingers itch to write her name, to carve it into the grain, but you don't. Instead, you clench your hands into fists, as though you can crush the feeling into silence. But it doesn't work. It never works. You've seen what happens to men who cross the king. You've heard the whispers of knights, exiled, of servants who vanished for far less than a stolen glance. The court is a nest of eyes and ears. Every corridor is lined with whispers. One wrong step, one misread look, and not even your sword will save you. And yet, you would risk it, wouldn't you? The thought comes, like lightning, frightening, sudden, undeniable. If it meant one moment, one real moment, her, would you give up everything you don't know? And yet, deep down, some part of you already knows the answer. The next day, you return to your duties with the same rigid posture, the same polished armor, the same silent mask. No one can see the storm raging inside you. Not Aldrich, not the other knights, not the servants who pass you in the halls. But when you catch sight of her, standing near a window, sunlight framing her face like a halo, you know that the fire inside you is only growing. She does not look at you directly. She doesn't have to. The air between you is charged, as if every unspoken word is pressing closer, waiting to break free. You tell yourself, this is madness, that you can control it, that you must control it. But even as you walk away, your heart betrays you. It beats for her, and only her. The sun rises over the castle walls with the pale, cold light of early morning, turning the stone towers into gray silhouettes against the misty sky. A horn sounds from the courtyard, a low, commanding note that rumbles through the walls like distant thunder. It's the same every day, yet this morning it feels heavier. Your body is still weary from a restless night, spent tossing and turning with thoughts you cannot silence. But there is no room for weakness here, not for a night. You strap on your armor, each piece familiar, yet unbearably heavy. The leather straps bite into your shoulders, and the chainmail shifts with a metallic whisper as you move. Your sword, an extension of your own arm, feels solid and cold in your grip. The life of a knight is built on repetition, on routine that sharpens both body and mind. You were trained to endure, to fight, to bleed if needed. But lately, your mind is never where it should be, and that is dangerous. The training yard is already alive with motion when you arrive. Rows of young knights, squires, and men-at-arms are lined up, swords flashing in the pale light as they practice their drills. The air smells of steel and sweat, mingled with the earthy scent of the damp ground. Sir Aldrich, your commander, stands at the center like an immovable boulder, his voice cutting through the air. Again, he orders. Every strike must be true. Every block must be solid. A knight's blade is worthless if his mind is wandering. You know his words are aimed at everyone, but today they feel like arrows aimed directly at you. You take your place in the line, feet planted firmly, sword raised. The first set of drills begins. Basic strikes, forward lunges, defensive parries. Your muscles know these movements as well as your own heartbeat. You've done them thousands of times, but as your blade slices through the air, you can't stop your thoughts from drifting. You see her face, not here in the yard, not among the clang of steel and the barked orders, but in your mind, standing by the garden archway, sunlight warming her hair. It's enough to throw you off balance for a fraction of a second. Focus, Aldrich snaps. His voice is like a whip, and it pulls you back to the present. A single distraction will cost you your life in battle. Do you want to die because you can't keep your head clear? You tighten your grip, jaw set, and swing again. Harder, cleaner, trying to silence both the commander's voice and the one inside your chest that whispers her name. Training is relentless. There is no mercy for tired arms or wandering minds. By midday, your body aches from the strain. Sweat soaks through your undershirt, and your shoulders burn with each strike. Sir Aldrich moves among the men, correcting stances, adjusting sword angles, muttering in his gravelly tone. He is a man who has seen war, real war, the kind that tears, lands apart, and leaves ghosts behind. He knows that discipline is all that keeps a soldier alive. Hold your blade like your life depends on it, he says. gripping your sword hand for a moment, because one day it will, and no woman's face, no memory, will save you when steel meets flesh. The words cut sharper than his sword. You nod, hiding the storm raging inside you. If only he knew the truth, that your greatest battle isn't fought in the yard, but in the silent moments when you see her, when her gaze pierces through the layers of duty and armor and reminds you that you are not just a knight, but a man. When training ends, there is no rest. A knight's duty stretches far beyond the yard. You spend the afternoon on watch, stationed along the battlements where the cold wind bites at your face. The landscape beyond the castle is peaceful. Rolling fields, distant forests, the faint ribbon of a river glinting in the light. But here, in this place of stone and iron, peace feels like a fragile illusion. You march the length of the wall, boots echoing against the worn stone. Every creak of the gate, every movement in the courtyard catches your eye. Vigilance is second nature, but even so, her image remains in your mind. The curve of her neck when she leans to whisper to a handmaiden, the sound of her laughter when she allows herself to forget her crown for just a moment. In the evening, you are summoned to escort a group of nobles through the hallways, a simple task, but one that requires sharp attention. The corridors are alive with the hum of conversation. Courtiers gossiping about feasts, alliances, and rumors. You walk behind them, silent, steady, but when you pass the queen's chambers, you feel it again. That invisible thread pulling at your heart. You dare not look, yet you know she is just beyond that door, perhaps, standing by the window, perhaps thinking of things no one around her would ever understand. The distractions grow heavier with each passing day. During sparring matches with other knights, you find yourself hesitating, imagining her face instead of your opponent's. One sharp strike nearly knocks the blade from your hand, and Aldrich doesn't miss it. Your head is somewhere else, he growls. That will get you killed, boy. And worse, it'll get the people you protect killed, too. His words are cold, but there's truth in them. You know it. A knight cannot afford to feel this way, not for anyone, least of all the queen. Yet even as you lie awake at night, muscles aching, you know the truth. This is no passing infatuation. It's something deeper, something dangerous. And every day you spend in this castle, walking the same corridors. She walks, standing guard beneath the same stars she sees from her window. That feeling only grows. By the time night falls, the courtyard is empty, the torches burning low. You sit on the edge of the well, wiping the sweat from your brow, staring up at the battlements. The moonlight spills across the castle walls like silver water. Somewhere inside, she is preparing for bed, her attendants, removing the jewels from her hair, her crown placed on its velvet pillow. You close your eyes and imagine her, not as a queen, but as a woman, alone, perhaps gazing out her window, as you gaze up at the same sky. A foolish thought, but one that refuses to leave. You tell yourself, this must end, that your heart cannot wander down this path. But the truth is simple and undeniable. It already has. The castle has a rhythm of its own, like a living creature that breathes in whispers and exhales. Secrets. Most of the time, you move through it like a shadow, silent, unnoticed, just another knight doing his duty. But fate has a way of bending rules when you least expect it. It happens on an afternoon drenched in soft golden light. The air is warm for the season, carrying the faint perfume of wild roses from the gardens. You have just finished your watch along the battlements, your boots heavy with dust, and your thoughts heavier still. All you want is a moment to breathe before the evening drills. Instead, you find yourself summoned to the inner courtyard, a place reserved for royalty, their guests, and a few select knights. You arrive, expecting to see the usual bustle of servants and guards, but the courtyard is surprisingly quiet. Only a few handmaidens are present, moving in and out of the arched doorways with baskets of flowers. And there, near the fountain in the center, she stands. The queen is alone, or at least as alone as she ever is. The handmaidens keep their distance, tending to the roses or arranging baskets of herbs, leaving her a fragile circle of privacy. She is dressed simply today, if such a thing can ever be called simple for a queen. Her gown is soft, ivory, light, and flowing, with a ribbon tied at her waist. Her hair is half-bound, falling over her shoulders like dark silk, the sun catching hints of chestnut tones in its waves. For a moment, you freeze at the edge of the courtyard, torn between stepping forward and retreating. Knights are not supposed to intrude on the queen's solitude, but before you can decide, she turns. Her gaze meets yours. The world narrows. The sound of the fountain fades. The chatter of the handmaidens becomes nothing but a distant hum. There is only her eyes steady and calm, but carrying that same unreadable depth that haunted you since the night of the feast. "Sir Knight," she says softly, her voice carrying like a bell across the courtyard. You bow deeply, heart thundering. "Your Majesty." She regards you for a moment, her head tilted slightly, as though she's searching for something in your face. The sunlight frames her like a painting, every line of her posture graceful, every breath measured. But there's something behind her, calm mask, something you cannot name. "Are you stationed here often?" she asks. It's an innocent question, but her tone is warmer than formality usually allows. "Only when commanded, Your Majesty," you answer carefully, your voice low and even. Your mind races, trying to remember every lesson drilled into you about speaking to royalty. Never look too long. Never speak unless spoken to. Never forget the gulf between who you are and who she is. Yet, in this moment, the gulf feels strangely small. She steps closer, her gown whispering against the stones. "I have seen you in the hall, near the doors, during the feast." Her words are measured, but her eyes hold yours for half a second, longer than necessary. You are vigilant. You swallow. "It is my duty, Your Majesty, to watch and to protect." She nods, though her gaze drifts briefly toward the fountain, as if looking at it. Gives her courage to continue. Does it not tire you? This life of standing, waiting, watching. I imagine it must feel lonely. The question catches you off guard. Queens do not ask about the feelings of knights. They do not speak as if the knight before them is a man with thoughts, with dreams. "It is a life of service," you say finally. But loneliness is something even a knight feels from time to time. Her lips curve, not quite a smile, but something close. "Yes," she says, quietly. "I suppose we both know something of that." She says nothing for a moment, and the silence between you stretches, heavy but not uncomfortable. Her eyes meet yours again, and this time she doesn't look away quickly. You feel the weight of that gaze, like a hand resting against your chest, gentle but powerful. You want to say something, anything, but words fail you. All the rules you've been taught about honor, about propriety, feel fragile in her presence. "Sir Knight," she says softly, her tone shifting, "what is your name?" The question almost startles you. Few of the royals ever ask for a knight's name. To them, knights are faces behind helmets, swords on command. But she asks, like she wants to remember it. "My name." You hesitate, your throat tight, before finally saying it aloud. Hearing her repeat it under her breath, softly, feels like a gift you didn't know you needed. One of her handmaidens approaches, breaking the fragile bubble of silence between you. "Your Majesty, the king's council is waiting," the handmaiden says with a bow. The queen turns her head slightly, but her eyes linger on you for just a second longer, as though reluctant to leave. "Duty calls," she says, more to herself than to you. And then, with a nod, she turns away, her gown trailing behind her like a whisper of moonlight. You stand rooted to the spot long after she's gone. The sound of her voice, the way she said your name, it replays in your mind like a sacred song. You know without question that something has changed. This was not just a glance, not just a passing word. This was a door quietly opening between you, and you cannot unsee it. That evening, during patrol, you find yourself restless. Every footstep echoes louder than usual. Every torchlight seems sharper. You know this path you're on is dangerous. A queen is not. Yours to admire, not yours to speak to beyond duty. And yet, you would give anything for another moment like the one in the courtyard, where name on her lips is now a secret you carry close, like a forbidden relic you dare not show to anyone. You tell yourself it means nothing, but the truth is undeniable. It means everything. The castle has many secrets, some carved into the stone walls, others hidden and whispered, conversations that vanish as soon as they are spoken. But now, one of those secrets belongs to you. It starts with something small, a folded piece of parchment left where no one else would. Notice, the morning after your encounter with the queen, you are stationed near the east corridor, a quiet place lined with narrow windows overlooking the gardens. The corridor is still and cold, filled with the scent of old wood and candle wax. Servants pass by occasionally, carrying linens or baskets of fruit for the kitchens. You stand at attention, helmet tucked under your arm, when a handmaiden approaches. Her eyes don't meet yours. She carries a tray of fresh flowers, her steps careful, her head lowered. But as she passes, her hand shifts and something slips from the tray, not by accident, but with practiced precision. A folded parchment lands by your boot. You glance down, your pulse quickening, but you do not move immediately. To pick it up too quickly would draw attention. You wait until she has gone, her soft footsteps fading around the corner, before you crouch and retrieve it. The parchment is sealed with a small stamp of wax, not the royal seal, but a simple mark, the kind a handmaiden might use to close a personal note. Still, the sight of it makes your heart pound like a drum. You do not read it right away. It's too risky. Instead, you keep it tucked in your glove until your shift ends, your mind buzzing with what it could mean. By the time you return to your chamber, your hands are trembling. You sit on the edge of your bed, staring at the folded parchment as though it might burn you if you touch it. Finally, you break the seal. The handwriting is delicate, flowing, the ink slightly smudged in places, as if the writer had hesitated, but the words are clear. Sir Knight. There are moments in this life when silence feels heavier than chains. I do not know why I write this, only that I must. I have seen you in the hall, by the doors, in the gardens. I have seen the way you do not look at me when you should, and yet I feel your gaze when my own eyes wander. I know this is dangerous, but I also know what it is to be unseen, from someone who wishes to be heard. Your chest tightens as you read it again and again. The words are not bold declarations. They are careful, cautious, yet they strike like lightning, burning away any doubt you had about the unspoken connection between you. You fold the letter and hide it in the lining of your chest plate. Even this is dangerous. If anyone were to find it, questions would be asked. Questions that have only one ending, and it's written in blood. A knight who dares to share secret words with a queen is not just foolish, he is doomed. And yet, as you lie awake that night, you know with perfect clarity you will answer her. You must. The next day, every moment drips with anticipation. You watch for the handmaiden who delivered the note, but she does not come. You cannot speak to her. You cannot ask. To do so would be to draw a line straight to your neck and the king's executioner. So you wait, biding your hour, stretching like a blade pulled to slow from its sheath. During training, your mind drifts. You hear Aldrich's barked commands, but they feel distant. You feel the echo of her words in your mind. Silence feels heavier than chains. You know that feeling. You've felt it for weeks now. The weight of wanting, of holding something so fragile inside your chest that it threatens to break you. That evening, you find yourself with a piece of parchment in hand. It's rougher than the kind she must have used, the ink darker and clumsier under your hand. You've never been a man of letters. Your words are forged in action, not ink, but you try, your hand shaking slightly as you write. Your Majesty, I do not know why I write this either, except that your words have struck something in me I cannot ignore. I am not a man of poetry or charm, only a knight, whose sword and silence are his duties. But I see you. I see the loneliness behind your smile, the way your gaze lingers on places far beyond these walls. If my eyes have lingered where they should not, forgive me. And yet, I cannot regret it. You stop there, afraid to say more, afraid of what more might mean, how to deliver it. You cannot simply hand it to her. You cannot risk passing it in plain sight. And yet, fate helps you. 2 days later, the same handmaiden passes through your post again, her arms full of folded linens, her steps slow just enough when she nears you, her eyes flicking once to the leather glove you hold. You slide the note into the folds of the linen at the top of her pile, quick and quiet as a breath. She doesn't look at you, doesn't say a word, but you know she understands. The weight of that moment is heavier than any sword. The fate of your heart now rests in her hands. That night, you barely sleep. You imagine her reading your words, sitting by candlelight in her private chambers, while the rest of the court feasts or sleeps. You imagine her fingers brushing the parchment, her lips curving into something soft and unguarded as she reads. You imagine, and it feels both dangerous and right. Days pass. No reply comes. Every step through the castle feels like walking through fog, your chest tight with waiting. Did she read it? Did she burn it? Does she think of you at all? And then, one evening, when you least expect it, another note appears, folded, simple, slipped into the crevice of your armor during a change of guard. You do not open it immediately. Not here, not where anyone could see. You hold it close, every muscle tense, and retreat to the solitude of your chamber. You break the seal with trembling hands. Her handwriting is as elegant as before, but this time there's something different in the tone, something warmer. Sir Knight, you see me, truly see me, and for that alone I cannot look away. I have read your words, simple and unadorned, but they speak more to me than the empty poetry of courtiers who have never known silence. I should not write to you again. I should not even think of you, but I do, and for the first time in years, I do not feel alone. You press the note to your chest, heart pounding. These are just words, ink on paper, and yet they feel like fire. You know this is the beginning of something you cannot stop. The Queen's letter sits in your hand like a living thing, as if the words are breathing. You read it once, then again, then a third time, unable to believe it's real. Each line seems to echo in your chest, louder and louder. For the first time in years, I do not feel alone. You should burn it. That is the wise thing to do. That is the only thing a knight with honor should do. But instead, you tuck it into your armor, close to your heart, as though its warmth can seep into you. That night, sleep does not come. You lie awake, staring at the ceiling beams, your thoughts twisting and tangling like vines. She wrote to you. She chose to reach for you, across the chasm of rank, of danger, of all the rules that hold your world together. And now, every part of you burns to answer her. You sit at your table, a piece of rough parchment before you, the quill trembling slightly in your hand. You are not a man of letters. You were not raised to weave pretty words. Your hands were trained for the sword, not for ink. But this is not about perfection. It's about the truth. You dip the quill, hesitating as the first drop of ink falls onto the page. What can you say to a queen? What words are safe when every word feels like a dangerous step on a thin sheet of ice? Finally, you begin. Your Majesty, your words reached me like a spark in the dark. I know I should not reply. I know this is dangerous for us both. But your voice on paper has left me restless, I see. You, as you said, not as a crown, not as a symbol, but as a woman who carries burdens she should never bear alone. I have no right to say more, yet I cannot stay silent. You pause, staring at the ink-stained page, the words trembling like confessions. It isn't enough, not really. You want to write more, to tell her how you've thought of nothing but her since the feast, how her eyes haunt you even in sleep, but you can't. The risk is too great. Even this short reply could mean death if discovered. You fold the parchment, seal it with melted wax, and slip it under your tunic. The moment you do, your heart begins to pound. How will you get this to her? How do you put your life and hers in the hands of chance? The answer comes the next morning. As you stand your post near the chapel doors, the Queen's handmaiden passes by again. Her steps are graceful, but her eyes flick toward you for just the briefest moment, a look that says she knows. She slows just enough for you to slip the folded parchment into the folds of her basket. The exchange lasts no more than a heartbeat. To anyone else, it would look like nothing. But to you, it feels as though the world stopped for that single, dangerous second. As the handmaiden walks away, you force yourself to look forward, jaw clenched, heart racing. If anyone notices, if anyone suspects, it will mean your life. But no one does. The castle, as always, hums with its endless, oblivious routine. Waiting for her reply is a torment you can barely endure. Every sound in the corridor makes you turn your head. Every handmaiden passing by feels like a messenger. At night, you toss on your cat, wondering if she's read your words, if she smiled, or if she regretted sending her first letter at all. But then, on the third day, it comes. You find the letter tucked into your gauntlet, slipped there so subtly that you almost miss it. The moment you see the familiar, elegant handwriting, your heart nearly stops. You retreat to your quarters, lock the door, and sit in the pale candlelight with the parchment trembling in your hands. You break the seal carefully, as though the letter is something fragile that might shatter if mishandled. Her words spill out like a quiet melody. Sir Knight, you write as though you have no right to speak to me, but you are wrong. In your silence, I have seen more honesty than in 100 speeches given by lords and courtiers. You say you see me, but do you know how rare that is? How strange it is to be looked at as more than a crown or a name on the lips of strangers. I do not know why I trust you, only that I do. And when I think of you standing in the hall, your hand on your sword, I feel a kind of safety I have not felt in years. You close your eyes, letting the words wash over you. Safety. She feels safe when she sees you. The thought cuts through you like sunlight through shadow, leaving you both elated and terrified. You write back that same night, and then she writes again. Over the course of the next few weeks, the letters grow bolder, not in the sense of confession, but in the honesty they carry. She writes of her childhood, of the things she misses, the smell of rain on the fields, the sound of laughter that isn't measured or practiced. She writes of the loneliness of the court, how the walls of the castle feel like stone cages. You, in turn, write of your life before knighthood, of the long hours training with nothing but hope to carry you forward. You tell her of the stars above the battlements, how they look brighter when you imagine she's looking at them too. These are not love letters, not yet, but they are close, too close. Every letter exchanged is a risk. You keep them hidden beneath a loose floorboard in your chamber, but you live in fear of discovery. Sometimes, when Aldrich's footsteps echo down the hall, you shove the letters under your tunic, heart pounding, terrified he'll sense something is wrong. The Queen's risk is greater still. One wrong move, one misstep by her handmaiden, and the entire court would know. Adultery, even suspected adultery, would not only ruin her, it would destroy her. And yet, despite the danger, the letters continue. They are both your lifeline and your undoing. One evening, you sit in your room, reading her latest letter by candlelight. It is shorter than usual, but each word is carefully chosen. When you are not near, I find myself searching the hall for your face. I do not know when this began, this need to know you are there, somewhere close, even if we cannot speak. Does it frighten you as it frightens me, or does it make you brave? Your hand shakes slightly as you trace the letters with your thumb. The truth is, it does both. It terrifies you, and yet it makes you stronger, more alive than you have ever felt. And for the first time, as you blow out the candle, you realize this is no longer something you can walk away from. You are already hers. The letter was different this time, shorter, sharper, as though the words themselves were holding their breath. Come to the East Garden at midnight, alone. Trust no one. There are things I cannot write, but must say. Your heart hasn't stopped racing since you read it. You've walked the length of your chamber 36 times, your boots scuffing against the wooden floor. 12 times you've told yourself not to go. It's reckless, it's dangerous. If anyone saw, if anyone suspected the cost, would not just be your life, it would be hers. And yet, even as you tell yourself to stay away, you're already planning how to get there unseen. The castle sleeps like a beast at night, silent but never still. You know the patrols, the guards, the points where shadows are deepest. The moon is bright, painting the walls in silver, and your armor feels heavier than ever. Every buckle threatening to betray you with a metallic sigh. So you strip down to the essentials, just a leather jerkin, dark trousers, and soft boots that barely whisper against the flagstones. Every step toward the East Garden feels like a line your crotches, one you can never uncross. You slip through narrow passageways and side doors, moving like a ghost. The torchlight flickers along the walls, and every crack in the stone feels like an eye watching you. When a guard rounds the corner ahead, you press yourself into an alcove, holding your breath until his footsteps fade into the distance. The East Garden lies beyond a small wooden gate, hidden behind the old chapel wall. It's a place few visit at night, except perhaps the Queen herself, which makes your pulse quicken even more the closer you get, the louder your heart beats, like a war drum in your chest. The garden is drenched in moonlight when you arrive. The roses are pale ghosts in the dark, their petals glistening with dew. A soft breeze carries their fragrance, sweet and heavy, mingling with the faint scent of lavender from the herb beds. The fountain in the center murmurs quietly, water cascading over its stone basin, its sound almost soothing, if not for the storm raging. Inside you stand there, motionless, waiting, listening. The night is quiet, except for the whisper of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. For a moment, you wonder if you've made a mistake, if the letter was never meant to be sent, if she's decided not to come. And then you hear the faintest sound, the soft rustle of silk. She steps through the archway, and for a moment, she looks less like a queen and more like a vision. Her gown is not the heavy brocade of the court, but something lighter, softer, in a shade of pale blue that glows in the moonlight. Her hair is unbound, falling over her shoulders in loose waves. There is no crown, no jewels, nothing but her, and she is more breathtaking now than in any throne room. You freeze, unsure of what to do. Do you bow? Do you speak? Do you simply stand there and let her come to you? She answers for you with a soft smile, the first real smile you've ever seen her wear. It's faint, but it's real, and it feels like the air itself shifts around you. You came, she says quietly, her voice almost a whisper. You nod, unable to find your words, your letter. I had no choice. For a moment, you simply stand there, staring at each other under the silver light. The garden is so quiet, you can hear the faint rustle of her breath, the soft flutter of the leaves above. I should not have called you here, she says, lowering her gaze. It is dangerous. If anyone saw us. She doesn't finish the thought. She doesn't need to. You both know the risk. I would come. No matter the risk, you say, the words spilling from you before you can stop them, even if it were my last act as a knight. Her eyes lift to yours, wide and searching. There's a sharp intake of breath, as though your honesty has struck something deep within her. She takes a step closer, the hem of her gown brushing across the grass with a soft hiss. I don't know why I trust you, she admits. Perhaps because you do not look at me the way others do. You do not see a crown when you look at me. No, you say softly. I see you. The words hang between you like a blade balanced on a thread. She doesn't move, but you see the flicker of something in her eyes, relief, maybe, or longing. Do you know how rare that is? She whispers. To be seen, truly seen. This castle is full of eyes, but none of them see me. Not like this, not like you. You take a slow breath, willing your heart to steady. I wish I could give you the freedom you deserve, to take you away from all this, even just for a single day. Her lips curve not into a smile, but into something softer. A knight's oath is to protect his queen, not to dream of her, she says, her tone teasing, but her eyes glistening with unshed emotions. And yet, I think, perhaps, you are the only one who has. She steps closer, just one step, but it feels like the world has narrowed to the space between. You can smell the faint scent of roses on her gown, feel the warmth of her presence. You should not write to me again, she says, but the words are hollow. You should not be here. This is wrong. Do you want me to leave? You ask, your voice barely more than a whisper. Her silence is the answer. She doesn't move. She doesn't step back. Then I will stay, you say, and the quiet conviction in your tone makes her breath catch. For a moment, nothing moves. Not the leaves, not the fountain, not even time itself. Just her eyes looking into yours, and something passing between you. A silent promise, a forbidden hope. It is she who breaks the moment, glancing toward the castle. We cannot be missed. Not tonight, not yet. You nod, though every part of you aches to stay. When you ask quietly, I will find a way, she says, her voice like silk in the night. Until then, keep my letters safe. She turns, and for a moment the moonlight catches her hair, making it look like spun silver. Then she is gone, the archway swallowing her silhouette like a dream dissolving at dawn. You stand there long after she's gone, your breath uneven, your heart burning with a truth you can no longer deny. This is no longer just glances and words. This is a beginning. The night is heavier than usual. Clouds roll slowly across the sky, hiding the stars, and the castle feels like a beast that has settled into deep slumber, but a slumber that could awaken. At any sound, the torches along the walls burn low, their flames flickering like the last embers of a dying fire. You move carefully, each step measured, the echo of your boots swallowed by the damp stone corridors. It's been days since the first secret meeting, and yet that single night has changed everything. Her voice, soft and steady in the moonlight, still echoes in your ears. Her words play over in your mind like a prayer you cannot forget. I will find a way, she said, and tonight you know she has. There is another letter tucked in your glove, a single line written in her delicate hand. Meet me again under the fountain's gaze, midnight. You know the way by heart now, through the narrow servant passages, past the kitchens, where the last fires have burned down to glowing coals, through the door that creaks if you don't push it just right. Every step is a risk. Every shadow feels like it's holding its breath. The castle is full of listening walls and untrustworthy eyes. But tonight, it's as if even the stones want to protect this secret. You reach the old chapel door, the one that leads into the east garden, and pause for a moment to listen. Nothing, only the whisper of the wind, carrying the distant scent of rain. You push the door open and slip outside. The garden is alive with shadows and silver light. The moon has broken through the clouds now, casting its pale glow over the roses, the ivy, and the carved marble fountain at the center. Dew clings to every petal and leaf, glinting like tiny crystals. The fountain's water flows softly, its sound blending with the rustle of leaves in the night breeze. You stand there, scanning the garden. For a moment, it feels empty, as if you're early, or perhaps she's changed her mind. But then you see her. She appears through the archway, her silhouette framed by the moonlight. Tonight, she wears a cloak, deep blue and embroidered with silver threads that shimmer like stars. The hood is drawn low over her face, but you'd know her anywhere. Every breath you've taken in the past days has been waiting for this moment. You don't move at first. You simply watch as she steps into the garden, her gown whispering softly beneath the cloak. The handmaidens are gone tonight. No guards, no servants. She has come alone. The realization makes your chest tighten. The risk she takes is greater than your own. If anyone were to see her here with you, the consequences would be dire. She stops a few steps from the fountain, her hood still drawn. For a long moment, the two of you just stand there, the night heavy with silence. You can hear your own heartbeat, loud and insistent, as if it might give you away. Then, slowly, she lowers her hood. Her face is softer in the moonlight. Jewels, no heavy crown, no painted smile for the court. Just her. Her hair tumbles over her shoulders, catching the light like threads of gold. Her eyes meet yours, and for a moment you can't breathe. You came, she says softly, almost a whisper. I would come through fire if you asked. You answer, the words slipping out before you can stop them. It's not something a knight should say. It's not something you should say, but it's true. She smiles, a small, hesitant smile, the kind that feels like a secret meant only for you. Do you know what I've realized? She says, stepping closer. The court speaks to me every day, but no one truly talks to me. Not like this, not like you. Your throat tightens. I don't know what to say half the time, you admit. I only know that when you look at me, I forget everything I've been taught to be. Her gaze lingers on yours. There's something there, a softness, a warmth that feels as dangerous as it is beautiful. She sits on the edge of the fountain, her cloak pooling around her like midnight velvet. Tell me something, she says, her tone lighter now. Tell me something of your life before this, before the castle. I don't want to hear the stories the bards tell. I want to hear your story. You hesitate. No one ever asks about you. Nights are meant to be silent shadows, not men with pasts worth remembering. But you tell her anyway. You speak of the village where you were, born of the long days training with wooden swords until your hands bled of the first time. You ever saw the castle from afar and thought it looked like a dream carved from the clouds. As you speak, she listens, really listens, her eyes never leaving yours. The weight of her attention is almost unbearable, like sunlight to warm on bare skin. And now she asks quietly, when you finish, does the castle still feel like a dream? You look around at the stone walls, at the silent towers, and then at her. No, you say softly. It feels like a prison, except for this moment. except when you're here. The words hang in the air, heavy and unguarded. You can see her take a slow breath, as though your honesty has struck something deep inside her. You shouldn't say such things, she whispers, but there's no anger in her voice. You shouldn't. She trails off, her eyes falling to the rippling water of the fountain. And yet, I think I understand. You step closer, slowly, careful, not to frighten this fragile thread between you. She doesn't move away. The distance between you shrinks, and you can feel the warmth of her presence, the faint scent of roses and lavender clinging to her cloak. In that moment, you want nothing more than to reach out, just to touch her hand, just to feel something real. But you don't, not yet. You have my letters, she asks, her voice barely more than a breath. Every one, you reply. I keep them hidden, but I read them. Too often, perhaps. Her lips curve into a faint smile. I read yours as well, more than I should. I tell myself it's only words, that it means nothing. But when I read them, I feel lighter, as though I can breathe again. You take another step closer, and this time your hand almost brushes hers on the fountain's edge. She glances down at the space between your hands, and the smallest breath catches in her throat. We will be discovered if we're careless, she says, though her voice trembles slightly. Then we won't be careless, you answer. But I won't pretend anymore that I don't. The words stop in your throat. Too much, too soon. And yet she seems to know. A distant sound, footsteps, faint and far, makes both of you freeze. You step back, instinctively, scanning the shadows, every muscle tense. But the sound fades. No one is coming. Still, the reminder of danger hangs over you like a blade. We must end this night before someone notices, she says, rising from the fountain. But as she steps past you, she hesitates, her hand brushing yours for the briefest, lightest second. The touch is nothing, and yet it feels like everything. You stand there, rooted to the spot, watching as she disappears into the archway, her cloak trailing behind her like the last trace of a dream. And in that quiet garden, beneath the moonlight, you know that this secret, this forbidden connection, is no longer just a thread. It is a rope pulling you both deeper into something neither of you can escape. The days that follow your midnight meeting in the garden feel both endless and fleeting. Every moment apart stretches like a blade drawn too thin, while every memory of her, the softness of her voice, the shimmer of moonlight in her hair, flickers in your mind like a candle that refuses to be snuffed out. You keep your head down during training, forcing yourself to focus on the swing of your sword, on the sharp bark of Sir Aldrich's commands. But no amount of discipline can erase the memory of her hand brushing yours near the fountain. That one fleeting touch haunts you like a ghost. You tell yourself it meant nothing. It was an accident, a brush of fingers in the dark, nothing more. But you know the truth. It meant everything. 3 nights later, another note arrives, this one tucked into the folds of your cloak, while you're stationed by the courtyard gates. The handmaiden doesn't speak, doesn't even glance at you, but the moment you feel the folded parchment between your fingers, your pulse begins to race. You don't need to open it to know who it's from. When you finally unfold the letter in the privacy of your quarters, you see her handwriting, elegant yet hurried, as though each stroke of the quill was drawn with a mix of fear and longing. I cannot sleep. The walls of this castle feel heavier with each passing day. Meet me in the garden tomorrow night. when the moon is high. I need to see you. There is no title, no signature, just those words. And yet, they are enough to set your entire body trembling. She needs to see you. The following evening, the moon is nearly full, casting the world in shades of silver and shadow. The garden is alive with the faint hum of crickets, their song mixing with the gentle trickle of the fountain. The roses are in bloom again, their petals unfolding like secrets whispered in the dark. The air smells faintly of damp earth and wildflowers, carrying a sweetness that makes the night feel almost too alive. You arrive first. Your boots barely whisper against the grass as you step into the clearing. The fountain gleams under the moonlight, its surface rippling with soft reflections. You place a hand on the cool stone, steadying yourself, but your heart continues to pound, too fast, too hard, and then you hear it, the quiet rustle of fabric, the sound of footsteps, careful, deliberate, moving through the archway. She is here. When she steps into the garden, you feel the world shift. She's dressed in a flowing gown of deep emerald, the kind that looks almost black in the shadows, but gleams with green fire. When the moonlight catches it, a thin silver chain rests around her neck, its pendant glinting softly as she moves. Her hair is loose again, falling in soft waves across her shoulders. For a long moment, neither of you speaks. You only look at each other, her gaze steady but hesitant, yours unable to tear away from her. You came, she says softly, almost like a question. Always, you reply, your voice low and rough. She steps closer, her gown trailing across the grass with a sound like whispers. I shouldn't be here, she says, though there's no conviction in her voice. And you shouldn't be either. This is, she pauses, her breath unsteady. This is madness. Maybe it is, you admit, but I'd rather lose my mind than forget what it feels like when you look at me like this. Her lips part slightly, a soft exhale escaping her, but she doesn't argue. Her eyes are on you now, not the way a queen looks at her knight, but the way a woman looks at something she's been afraid to want for too long. You don't remember moving closer, but suddenly you're standing just a breath away from her. The moonlight turns her face pale and luminous, the shadows of her lashes painting soft arcs on her cheeks. You lift your hand slowly, so slowly it feels like time itself has paused, and hover your fingers near hers. May I? You ask, your voice barely audible. She doesn't answer with words. Instead, she extends her hand, her fingers trembling slightly. It's all the invitation you need. When your fingers touch, it's nothing like you imagined. It's not a grand, sweeping gesture. It's soft, tentative, almost fragile, but it feels like fire. Her skin is warm against yours, her pulse quick beneath your fingertips. You hold her hand gently, afraid that if you grip too tightly, she vanished like smoke. Her breath catches, and for a moment, she doesn't move. Then she lets out a sigh, quiet, as though she's been holding it for far too long, and her fingers curl around yours. You stand there, hand in hand, saying nothing. The night feels thick with something unspoken, a longing, a fear, a truth neither of you dares to voice. It's not just a touch, it's a promise, fragile and dangerous, but a promise all the same. Finally she speaks. Do you know how long it's been since someone touched me like this? Not as a queen, not as a symbol, but as me. You swallow hard, your thumb brushing lightly across the back of her hand. I don't see the crown when I look at you. You say, I see the woman who has been hidden behind it. The woman who's been waiting to be seen. Her lips tremble, just slightly, but you see it. And do you know what happens to men who see too much? She whispers, though her tone isn't cold. It's almost playful. Almost they lose everything, you reply softly. And yet, I don't care. You don't dare move closer. Not yet. But the world between you has shrunk to almost nothing. Just the space of a single breath. You can see the rise and fall of her chest, the way her fingers tighten on yours, like she doesn't want to let go. We must be careful, she says, though the way she lingers on your hand tells another story. If the king knew, if anyone knew, her voice fades, but the fear in her words only makes the moment more intense. No one will know, you say firmly. Not if we guard this secret with everything we have. She looks at you, her gaze unwavering. And would you guard this, whatever this is? You meet her gaze with all the quiet conviction you can summon. With my life. The sound of distant footsteps, a guard on patrol, cuts through the stillness, making both of you tense. She pulls her hand back, though not abruptly, almost like it hurts her to let go. This isn't over, she whispers, her eyes holding yours. But not here, not now. Too many eyes. And then she's gone, her cloak sweeping behind her as she vanishes through the archway, leaving only the faint scent of roses and the lingering warmth of her touch on your hand. You stand there long after she's gone, staring at your own fingers as if they've been branded with fire. That single, quiet touch feels like the beginning of something neither of you will be able to stop, no matter how dangerous it becomes. The night after your first touch is long and sleepless. You lie awake, staring at the ceiling beams of your chamber, every nerve alive with the memory of her hand in yours. It's such a simple thing, a gesture so small it could have been nothing. But it isn't nothing, it's everything. The single touch feels more dangerous than any battle you've ever fought, and far harder to survive. You keep seeing her in your mind, the way her fingers trembled when they brushed against yours, the way her breath caught in her throat, as though she, too, was afraid of how much that moment meant. You tell yourself to be cautious, to bury the memory before it can betray you. But the truth is, you don't want to. The following day is mercilessly slow. You spend hours in the training yard under Sir Aldrich's watchful eye, sparring until your arms ache and your chest heaves. He notices your distraction. You're slower today, Aldrich growls, circling you like a wolf, sizing up prey. A night with a clouded mind is a dead night. His words are harsh, but they're true. And yet, you can't shake the cloud that hangs over you, because you're not thinking of your blade or your footing. You're thinking of her. That night, as you return to your quarters, you find another folded piece of parchment slipped beneath your door. Your pulse quickens as you recognize her delicate handwriting. Meet me again, at the same place, 2 nights from now. I cannot pretend any more. But we must be careful. If anyone suspects us, all will be lost. Her words are a mix of longing and fear, a reminder that this connection you share is both a gift and a curse. 2 nights later, you return to the garden under the cover of darkness. The moon is hidden behind clouds, and the air feels heavier, almost electric with anticipation. You arrive early, your boots soft against the grass, and wait by the fountain. The silence stretches, broken only by the gentle trickle of water and the whisper of wind through the roses. And then she is there. She comes alone again, cloaked and hooded, her steps light but sure. When she lowers her hood, you see her face, pale, luminous, and yet more alive than you've ever seen it. You came, she says, her voice low, as if she still doesn't quite believe this is real. You asked, you replied, and those two words feel heavier than steel. You sit together on the edge of the fountain, the cool marble pressing against your hands. The queen's fingers brush yours briefly, almost unintentionally, and the warmth of that small touch sends a rush through you like a wave crashing against stone. This cannot last, she says, softly, her gaze fixed on the rippling water. If the king knew, if anyone knew, do you understand what they would do to you? I do, you say, but I understand something else too. I understand that I cannot walk these halls pretending I don't feel this, pretending I don't see. You, she looks at you, then really looks, her eyes filled with both wonder and fear. Why are you risking this? Why me? You hesitate, but only for a moment, because when I see you, I see the woman behind the crown. I see someone who's trapped in the same silence. I've lived my whole life, and I'd rather risk everything than let you feel alone. Her breath catches as she takes your hand, deliberately this time. Her fingers curl around yours, soft and trembling, but sure. If we do this, if we keep this, whatever this is, we will have to be careful. We can't leave anything behind. No notes left lying about, no glances that linger too long. I'll guard this secret with my life, you say, your voice steady. But I need you too. No, I don't see this as a game, not for a moment. I would protect you, even from the truth itself, if that's what it takes. She smiles faintly, not the polite, distant smile she gives the court, but a real one. I know, she whispers. I can feel it in the way you look at me. The night grows colder, but neither of you notices. You speak in hushed tones, sharing fragments of yourselves that no one else has heard. She tells you about the quiet loneliness of her childhood, about how the crown was placed on her head before she was old enough to understand what it would cost her. You tell her about the long years of training, about the battles. You fought with nothing but a wooden sword and a stubborn will. Each word feels like a thread, weaving the two of you closer together. But even as you sit there, hand in hand, you can't ignore the danger pressing in around you. The garden feels safe, but you know it's an illusion. A single wandering guard, a single misplaced word, and everything would unravel. We must promise, she says, her voice firm now, that if we are caught, you will not speak my name, no matter what they do to you, no matter what they say. The thought of her suffering while you live in silence sends a shiver through you, but you nod. I promise, you say, and the words feel like a vow, heavier than any knightly oath, rises pulling her cloak tightly around her shoulders. I must go, she says reluctantly. The court will notice if I am gone too long. You stand too, but neither of you moves for a moment. Her eyes hold yours, and for a second, it feels like she wants to say something. Something bigger, something neither of you is ready for. Instead, she lifts her hand, brushing her fingertips lightly. Across the back of your hand, it's not a kiss, not even an embrace, but it's enough to leave you breathless. Soon, she whispers, we will find a way to talk again. You watch as she disappears through the archway, her silhouette swallowed by the shadows. When she's gone, The garden feels colder, emptier, as if all the light in the world left with her. You linger at the fountain long after she's gone, the water rippling softly beside you. You think about her words, about promises and risks, and realize that this is no longer just longing or curiosity. It's something far deeper, something worth every risk. And yet, as you return to your quarters, your chest tightens, because you know, with a clarity that chills you, if anyone in this castle suspects what's happening between you, everything you've built, your life, your honor, her freedom, will be ripped apart. But for her, you would risk it all. The castle has changed. Or perhaps it is only that you have changed. And because of that, you notice every shift in the air, every glance that lingers a second too long, where once the halls were just cold corridors of stone. Now they feel like a maze of watchful eyes. Every guard, every servant, every noble seems to be looking, maybe not directly at you, but through you, as if sensing that something has shifted in the silence of the court. You try to tell yourself it's paranoia, but it's not. Something is different. The first sign comes during the morning watch, as you stand near the throne room entrance. The queen enters, accompanied by her ladies-in-waiting. Normally, she would sweep past, without a second glance, her gaze fixed somewhere just beyond the crowd. But today, as her steps echo softly against the marble floor, her eyes find yours. It's not a long look, just a moment, half a heartbeat. Yet, it's enough. Enough for your breath to catch. Enough for your chest to tighten. And apparently, enough for others to notice. One of the courtiers, Lord Parrow, a man with a narrow face and a sharper tongue, tilts his head ever so slightly as the queen passes. His eyes flick between her and you, just for a second, but the look lingers. It's not curiosity, it's calculation. The kind of calculation that chills you to your bones. Life in the royal court is a web of whispers and masks. Every smile hides a dagger. Every gesture is an invitation to suspicion. The courtiers, dressed in silks and dripping with jewels, are not here for loyalty or love. They are here for power. They thrive on secrets. They hunt them like wolves sniffing for blood. And you've given them a scent. At dinner that evening, you stand at your post by the great doors as the feast unfolds. The hall is loud with laughter and music. The long tables heavy with golden platters of roasted lamb, fresh bread, and bowls of spiced fruits. The king sits at the head table, his booming voice carrying over the hall as he boasts of his latest military victories. But you are not looking at the king. You can't. Your eyes, as much as you fight it, are drawn to her. The queen sits beside him, poised and serene, her face a perfect mask of calm. Yet once, just once, her gaze drifts across the hall and finds yours. It's barely noticeable, a flicker of connection so small that anyone could miss it. But not Lord Harrow. His sharp eyes are already watching. You see it, the way his lips curve in the faintest, knowing smirk. And you know, with a sinking feeling, that he suspects. Over the next few days, you start to notice subtle changes. Your assignments shift slightly, but enough to unsettle you. You are moved from your usual posts outside the great hall to patrols in less visible corridors. You're still near the queen, but not as close. Sir Aldrich calls you. Aside one morning, his voice gruff. "You've been distracted lately," he says, his eyes narrowing as if he can read the truth in your face. And distractions get men killed, or worse. You nod, muttering something about fatigue. but his gaze lingers. Aldrich is not a fool. He doesn't speak of it, but you sense he's watching you more closely now. And if he is watching, others will be too. You see her less frequently now. Or perhaps it only feels that way because every glance feels stolen, every moment weighted with the risk of being seen. Her letters come less often, hidden carefully in the folds of a handmaiden's basket. Letter, shorter than usual, reads, "We must be careful. I think they are beginning to notice. Even the smallest glance feels like fire against my skin when others are near. But I cannot stop thinking of you." You trace those words with your thumb, heart pounding. The fear is there now, in both of you, a shadow creeping through every corner of your world. It happens 2 nights later. You are on guard duty in the inner courtyard when Lord Harrow passes by, his fine cloak trailing over the stone. He pauses, as if by accident, and glances at you. "You stand very straight for a man with such heavy thoughts," he says casually, his tone dripping with false charm. "My thoughts are of my duty, my lord," you reply stiffly. He chuckles, a quiet, cutting sound. "I wonder," he murmurs, his eyes glinting with something that makes your blood run cold. "Careful, Sir Knight. The king values loyalty above all things, and he has a particular dislike for men who forget their place." With that, he walks away, leaving you rooted to the spot. His words are not an accusation, but they are close enough to a threat, and the meaning behind them is clear, he suspects. And now, the court's eyes are on you. That night, you sit alone in your chamber. The Queen's letters spread before you like fragile treasures. For the first time, you consider burning them, not because you want to, but because you must. If someone finds them, it will be the end for both of you. But when you pick up the first letter, her words leap off the page, alive with the warmth of her voice, and you can't do it. You can't destroy the only proof that this she is real. Instead, you hide them deeper, tucking them beneath a loose floorboard beneath your bed. And as you sit there in the dim candlelight, you feel a knot of fear tightening in your chest. This isn't just about longing anymore. This is about survival. The next morning, you catch a brief glimpse of her in the hallway. She doesn't speak, doesn't even stop walking. But her eyes, they hold yours for a single heartbeat. And in that heartbeat, you know something without words. This is not the time to falter. If the court's eyes are watching, you will simply have to be sharper, stronger, because giving her up, that is something you cannot do. The court is never silent. Even when the great hall is empty and the corridors echo only with the faint scuff of servants' feet, the whispers remain, tucked into corners, hidden in the folds of tapestries, curling around the edges of conversations that seem innocent but are anything but. The royal court thrives on secrets. It feeds on them like a starving beast that will never be satisfied. And lately, you and she have given the court something to chew on. It begins with small things. A few of the nobles, particularly Lord Harrow, start glancing at you more often. His gaze is not the casual look of a man who notices a guard out of habit. It is sharper, colder, like a hawk circling prey. One afternoon, during a formal gathering in the great hall, you catch him leaning close to Lady Rita, one of the Queen's more ambitious ladies in waiting. Their whispers are low, but their eyes flick toward the throne where the king and queen sit. Then their gaze lands on you. Your stomach tightens. You know this look. This is not curiosity. This is plotting. You notice that the queen has grown quieter in recent days. Her smile, once soft but genuine, when her eyes met yours, is now practiced even in those rare moments. She seems more guarded, as if she feels the eyes pressing on her as well. During one feast, you see her sitting beside the king, her hands folded gracefully on the table. She does not look at you once, not even a glance. To anyone else, it's nothing unusual, but to you, who has memorized every subtle tilt of her head, every flicker of her gaze, it feels wrong. And then you see the reason. Lord Harrow sits across from her, his pale eyes watching her every move. He is too polite, too calm, his thin smile just sharp enough to cut. You don't know what game he is playing, but you know it is dangerous. After the feast, when the guests have retired to their chambers and the hall is quiet, you remain on duty outside the throne room. As you adjust your stance, Sir Aldrich approaches. His expression is grave. "Careful, boy," he mutters under his breath. "People are watching you, important people. I don't know what they've seen, but they smell blood, and once the court gets a taste for it, they won't stop until someone is ruined." You glance at him, your jaw tightening. What have they said? He studies you for a moment, his eyes sharp. "Nothing I can repeat, not yet. But rumors don't need words to grow. They just need silence. It's a warning, and you know it's not given lightly." Aldrich may not know the full truth, but he knows enough to see you standing too close to fire. The next morning, as you walk through the outer courtyard, you catch the sound of two servants whispering near the stables. Their voices drop the moment they see you, but you catch enough to hear your title, the young knight, and the word queen tangled together in the same breath. Your blood runs cold. You keep walking, not acknowledging them, but your fists clench at your sides. If the servants have noticed, then the rumors have already started to slip through the cracks of the court. Rumors in a place like this are worse than swords. Swords cut flesh, rumors cut reputations, and those wounds never heal. Over the next few days, you notice a pattern. Certain nobles seem to gather when the queen enters the hall, their conversations quieting just enough for you to feel the weight of their stares. They bow and smile, but the smiles are hollow, the kind that hide barbed questions. Lord Harrow, especially, is relentless. He lingers near the queen whenever possible, offering her sly compliments, watching her reaction. And every time she remains distant or polite, his gaze drifts toward you, a silent accusation, as if he suspects that her warmth lies elsewhere. You start to hear whispers in the corridors, the queen's knight, too often in the gardens. Have you noticed how she looks at him? Each word is a blade, cutting at the thin veil of secrecy you've both tried to maintain. Then another letter arrives, this one more urgent than any before. It's shorter, hurried, as though written with shaking hands. "I fear they are watching us. I fear their tongues. Harrow is too close, and he is clever. We must be careful, more careful than ever before. No glances, no meetings, for now. But do not think my heart is silent. It never is." You read the letter 3 times, your chest tight. The thought of staying away from her, even for safety, feels like punishment. But she's right. Every moment you spend together is a risk now, and the court is hungry for a scandal. What makes it worse is that the king has begun to notice the whispers. He is not a man who trusts easily, and his advisors are quick to feed him doubts. At dinner one evening, you feel his eyes on you. Not sharp, not yet, but curious, as though he's trying to remember why. You seem familiar beyond your armor. Your entire body tenses under his gaze. You force yourself to look forward, your face blank, your hands steady on your sword hilt. But inside, your heart pounds like a drum, if the king ever suspected. You don't let yourself finish that thought. The tension grows with each passing day. You can feel it in the way the nobles linger in hallways, the way servants lower their voices when you pass, the way the queen's handmaidens glance nervously around whenever they deliver her letters. Every glance between you and her now feels like fire, not because of the longing, but because of the risk. You want to see her, too, talk to her, to just be near her, but you know every second of it could be the thread that unravels everything. And yet, in your heart, you know one thing with absolute certainty: you are not going to stop. Not now. Not when this is the only thing in the world that feels real. That night, as you sit alone in your quarters, you make a silent vow. If the court is plotting, then you will be smarter. You will watch them as closely as they watch you. And if Harrow or anyone else dares to move against her, you will be ready. For the queen, you would fight every shadow this castle hides. And for her, you would burn every secret to the ground. The castle is never truly quiet, but now its halls carry a new kind of noise. The noise of urgency, of fear, of preparation. War is coming. The king has declared it, and the entire court has shifted its focus to the borderlands, where unrest has begun to boil over like a storm cloud, threatening to split open the sky. The clang of hammers striking iron fills the courtyards, the sound sharp and relentless as blacksmiths forge new weapons for the knights. The smell of scorched metal and hot oil mingles with the damp scent of early spring rain. Horses are being groomed and fitted with heavy armor. Caravans arrive from the villages, bringing sacks of grain, bundles of arrows, and barrels of salted meat for the coming march. You, like every knight, are caught in the current of this preparation, a current that sweeps you from dawn to dusk in a whirl of tasks and drills. And yet, while the others focus only on the coming war, your mind is split between two battles: the one you must fight with sword and shield, and the one you are already fighting in silence. For her, the king's voice booms through the great hall like the tolling of a war bell. We march at the end of this moon, he declares to his gathered knights and advisors. The borderlands grow, restless, and I will not see this kingdom falter. Every man who bears a sword will ride with me. You stand among the ranks of knights, your posture as rigid as the steel on your back. You feel the weight of his words settle over you like an iron cloak. War is part of your duty. You were trained for it, born for it, and yet your thoughts flicker, unbidden, toward the queen. What will happen to her when you are gone? Who will watch over her, guard her, protect her from men like Lord Harrow, who slither closer to her with every passing day? Your eyes drift, just for a second, to where she sits on the dais beside the king. Her face is as serene as always, but you know her well enough now to see the subtle tension in her posture. Her fingers rest too tightly on the arm of the throne. Her gaze lingers, not on the king's words, but on the knights. And when her eyes find yours, just for a heartbeat, you see the shadow of fear. There, that night, A letter arrives. It's hastily written, the ink slightly smudged, proof of how quickly. She must have hidden it. You will ride with him, won't you? I knew this day would come, but my heart is not ready. I cannot bear to see you leave without a word, without something. Meet me before you go. Midnight, our garden. You don't hesitate. When the castle sleeps, you slip through the shadows once more, every step heavy with the weight of what is coming. The garden is quiet, the fountain whispering softly under the pale moonlight. But tonight the silence feels different. It feels like an ending or the edge of one. She is already there, waiting for you beneath the arch of roses. She wears no crown, only a deep blue cloak that falls around her like flowing midnight. When you see her, the breath leaves your chest as if you've been struck. You're leaving, she says quietly, before you can even speak. It's not a question, it's a truth. She already knows. I must, you reply, your voice low. The king will expect every night at his side. It is my duty. Her eyes glisten in the moonlight. And who will protect me while you are gone? She asks, her tone barely above a whisper. Do you know what they will say when you are not here to stand between me and them? Harrow watches me like a vulture. He's waiting, always waiting. You step closer, the distance between you closing until you can feel the warmth of her presence. I will come back, you say firmly. Do you hear me? No matter what happens, I will come back to you. Her breath catches, and if you don't, you shake your head. Don't say that I will. She lifts a trembling hand, and for the first time, she places it fully against your chest, where your heart beats like a drum beneath your tunic. The touch is light, but fierce, like she's trying to memorize the shape of you through the layers of fabric. I should not do this, she whispers, her voice unsteady. Every word, every glance between us is a blade pressed against our throats. If anyone saw us here tonight, no one will, you say. I swear it. Her hand lingers against your chest for one long moment, her eyes searching yours as though she wants to say more, but cannot. And then she pulls back, though the loss of her touch feels like a wound. The days that follow are a blur of relentless preparation. You polish your armor until it gleams, sharpen your sword until it cuts the air itself. The knights drill in the yard from dawn to dusk, the clash of steel, and the thundering of hooves echoing through the castle like war chants. But amid all this noise, your mind remains quiet in one place, the garden where her words linger like soft echoes. Who will protect me while you are gone? That question haunts you more than the coming war. On the eve of departure, the king gathers the knights one last time. His voice is strong, his commands absolute. We ride at first light, he says. There is no room for weakness. There is no room for hesitation. We fight for the glory of the kingdom. You nod with the rest, but inside, your thoughts are not of glory. They are of her, of the moonlight on her face, of the fear in her voice, of the promise you made to return. That night, as the castle settles into uneasy quiet, you find her one last time, not in the garden, that is too risky now, but across the expanse of the great hall. She is there with the king, surrounded by advisors, her face the perfect mask of royalty. But when her eyes find yours across the room, just for a fleeting second, something passes between you, a message without words carried in that glance. Come back to me, and you swear, silently, that you will. The morning of your departure arrives cold and gray, with a sky that feels as heavy as the armor on your shoulders. The castle courtyard is alive with movement, knights mounting there, horses, squires tightening saddle straps, the clang of steel echoing like a drumbeat of doom. The king stands tall at the head of the assembly, his crimson cloak rippling in the breeze, his presence commanding and unyielding. You mount your horse, the leather saddle creaking under your weight, and glance back at the castle. The queen stands at one of the high windows, barely visible, her face pale in the distance. She doesn't wave, she doesn't dare, but you feel her eyes on you, and that single, silent glance burns hotter than any farewell. The march to the battlefield is long and grueling. Days stretch into weeks as you and the king's army ride through forests and across fields scarred by old wars. At night, the campfires flicker against the dark, their smoke curling into the cold air like ghostly fingers. You lie on rough blankets beneath the stars, your sword close at hand, your body aching from the day's ride. The air is thick with tension. Some of the younger knights whisper of glory, their voices bright with excitement. But the veterans know better. They sharpen their blades in silence, their eyes grim, because they understand the truth. There is no glory in war, only survival, and in the quiet. Moments when the stars are bright and the camp is still, your thoughts drift back to her, to the sound of her voice in the garden, to the way her hand trembled when it touched yours. Her memory is your anchor, your reason to endure the cold, the hunger, the fear. The first taste of battle comes at dawn, when the world is still shrouded in mist. You wake to the sound of horns, long, low notes that cut through the fog like a warning from the gods themselves. The enemy is near. You grip your sword, the familiar weight grounding you as you line up with the other knights. Your horse snorts and stamps the ground, sensing the tension in the air. The king rides ahead, his voice carrying over the ranks. Hold your ground for the kingdom. And then the silence shatters. The clash of steel rings out like thunder. Arrows hiss through the air. The smell of mud, sweat, and blood fills your lungs. You charge forward, your sword raised, your heart pounding like a drum. There is no time to think, no time to fear, only the rhythm of the fight. Strike, parry, move, breathe. The battle is chaos. Men shouting, horses screaming, blades cutting through the mist. You see comrades fall, their armor splattered with blood, and you push forward because hesitation means death. Every swing of your sword is a prayer you didn't know you knew. By the time the battle ends, the ground is littered with bodies, friend and foe alike. The air is thick with the iron scent of blood, mingled with the acrid smoke of burning wood. You stand, their chest heaving, your sword heavy and red in your hand. This is the part the songs never tell you. Not the glory, not the honor, but the silence after the screams. The way the world feels empty once the fighting stops. The way the faces of the dead linger in your mind long after they've fallen. You wash your blade in a nearby stream, watching the blood swirl away in red ribbons. And as the water clears, so do your thoughts, and they return, as they always do, to her. The war drags on, each day bleeding into the next. You ride, you fight, you survive. The camp becomes your world, a circle of tents. Sleep is rare, and when it comes, it's filled with dreams of the queen. Dreams so vivid, you wake with her name on your lips. The only thing that keeps you steady is the memory of her voice and the letters you keep hidden in your pack. You read them in the quiet moments, her words a lifeline that pulls you out of the darkness. One evening, after a skirmish that leaves your arms trembling from exhaustion, a messenger arrives at the camp. He carries a satchel sealed with the royal emblem. Among the scrolls of orders and reports, there's something else, a small, folded piece of parchment with no seal, but with handwriting you would recognize anywhere. Your hands shake as you open it. Her words are hurried but full of life. Are you safe? I hear whispers of battles and blood. I lie awake at night, imagining the worst. You promised to return, but I need to hear it from you, that you live, that you breathe, that this war has not taken you from me. If I could ride to you, I would. Instead, I send this letter, carrying my heart with it. You close your eyes, the words soaking into your soul like rain on dry earth. She's thinking of you. She's waiting. And you realize, as you fold the letter and press it to your chest, that this she is the reason you will survive whatever comes next. The next morning, as you mount your horse and prepare for another battle, you feel different. The fear is still there. It always will be. But beneath it burns a steady flame. You will survive this war. You will fight, bleed, and endure. Not for the king, not for glory, but for her. Every swing of your sword, every breath you take, is a promise to her. I will return. The battlefield is quiet now. The sun has set, bleeding crimson and gold into the horizon, and the sky above the camp glows with the last embers of day. Smoke from the cooking fires curls into the darkening air, carrying the mingled scents of charred wood, leather, and damp earth. Around you, men move in silence, tending to wounds, sharpening blades, preparing for whatever comes with the next dawn. You sit alone by a dying fire, the exhaustion of the day pressing into your bones like lead. Your hands are rough, your armor streaked with mud and blood. War has a way of stripping the world down to its most brutal truth. Yet, in the midst of all this, you feel something almost fragile, a flicker of warmth that pulls you back to life. The messenger appears, without warning, a slim shadow stepping out of the night. He bows, his hands clutching a small folded parchment sealed with plain wax. There's no crest, no sign of royalty, but you recognize the elegant curve of the letters on the outside. Your heart leaps in your chest. You take the letter carefully, as though it's made of spun glass. Even before you break the seal, you can feel her presence in the weight of the parchment, in the faint scent of roses and lavender clinging to it. A trace of the queen herself, carried across miles of blood-soaked fields to find you. The camp fades around you, the murmured voices of your fellow knights, the crackle of the fires, even the distant hoot of an owl. All of it becomes nothing but a blur. There is only this letter, only her. When you open it, her handwriting flows across the page like a quiet voice, warm and unguarded. You read slowly, savoring every word, as though her voice is speaking directly into your heart. My night, each day without you feels like a chain around my heart, tightening with every sunrise and sunset. The castle walls are colder now, the corridors emptier, as though they know you are gone. I sit by the window where I last saw you, and I imagine your face among the stars. I wonder if you are safe, if the wind carries my thoughts to you as you sleep. The court talks of war and glory, but none of it matters to me. What is glory compared to fear? What is victory if you are not here to see it? I should not write to you, not like this, but I can't keep these thoughts locked away anymore. Do you think of me? Even in the noise of battle, do you remember the quiet of our garden? Do you still feel the warmth of my hand? Come back to me, my knight. Come back with your heart still beating, with your eyes still shining the way they did when you looked at me in the moonlight. Until then, I am waiting, always waiting. You read her letter again and again, each time slower, as if the ink itself is alive with her presence. Her words are not merely written, they are felt, as though each line carries the weight of her breath, her longing, her fear. Your chest tightens. She is not just writing as a queen, not even as a distant, untouchable figure. She is writing as a woman who is as bound to you as you are to her. For a long time, you sit there with the letter pressed to your chest, your eyes closed. The sounds of the camp fade into the distance, and for just a moment, you are not here. On this cold battlefield, you are with her in the garden, under the stars, hearing her voice whisper those same words. Later that night, under the faint light of a half moon, you find a scrap of parchment and an ink-stained quill. The words don't come easily at first. You're not a poet, you're a soldier, but her letter has stirred something inside you that refuses to remain silent. You write, my queen. I read your words beneath the stars tonight, and for a moment I forgot the war around me. You ask if I think of you. I do, more than you could ever know. When the battle rages and the world feels close to breaking, it is your face that keeps me standing. I carry your memory like a shield, stronger than any armor. You ask if I still feel the warmth of your hand. I do. It's burned into me like fire in the cold. It is the only warmth I know now. I will come back to you, I swear it. No sword, no war, no distance can keep me from finding my way back to the woman who waits for me. You seal the letter, your hands steady now. It feels like a vow, one that is as sacred as any oath you've ever sworn. The days blur together, marching, fighting, surviving. But every moment you can steal, you take out her letter and read it again. Her words give you strength in a way nothing else can. When the men around you falter, you press forward because you carry her in your heart. At night, by the dim glow of the fire, you imagine her reading your reply. You imagine her fingers tracing the ink, her lips curving into that small, secret smile meant only for you. The thought of her waiting is both your greatest comfort and your sharpest pain. One evening, after a long day of skirmishes, you sit alone on a hill overlooking the camp. The sun sinks behind the horizon, staining the sky in shades of violet and gold. You hold her letter in your hands, and a thought pierces you like an arrow. This is no longer just longing. This is love. And love, you realize, is the most dangerous weapon of all. The battlefield is no place for soft dreams or tender words, but you carry hers all the same. The Queen's letter is tucked safely in the lining of your tunic, close to your heart, like a second heartbeat. Every time your armor rattles or your breath grows shallow, you feel its presence, a reminder that you are not just fighting for the king or the kingdom or the songs of glory. You are fighting to live for her. The days are long, the kind of long that gnaws at a man's soul. Each morning begins before the sun even dares to rise, with the clanging of swords and the cold bite of dew on your boots. You march until your legs ache, until your shoulders feel carved from stone beneath the weight of your armor. The countryside around you is both beautiful and unforgiving. Endless fields, scarred by past wars, forests that creak and whisper as though haunted by the ghosts of men who fought here long ago. Food is meager, sleep even less so. You snatch hours of rest beneath thin blankets, your body pressed against the hard earth, your sword never far from your reach. When you do sleep, it's not the battles you dream of, it's her, the way her hand trembled when she touched yours in the garden, the way her voice carried like a soft melody through the night. These dreams keep you going. They are the only thing that makes the harsh days bearable. War, when it comes, is chaos, a storm of steel and screams. You hear it before you see it. Blaring horns, the clash of shields, the pounding of hooves. The enemy charges from the fog, like a wall of shadows, their weapons glinting in the pale morning light. The ground trembles beneath you as you raise your sword, the weight of it familiar and solid in your grip. The first impact is like being struck by a wave. You parry, strike, move. Your arms burn with the effort. Your ears ring with the clash of iron on iron around you. Men fall, some with shouts of rage, others with cries that will never leave your mind. Blood darkens the grass, the metallic scent of it heavy in the air. And yet, in the midst of this chaos, you find yourself thinking of her, not because you want to, because you have to. The thought of her waiting, of her reading your last letter by candlelight keeps your feet moving when exhaustion tells you to stop. Every swing of your blade feels like a vow. I will return to her. I must. It happens on the third day of fighting. The sun is high, blinding and merciless, when a sudden clash throws you off balance. A blow from behind sends you stumbling, your shield knocked from your hand. You turn, just in time to see a sword flashing toward your chest. For one heartbeat, you see death. You feel the chill of it creeping up your spine. But then her face, the memory of her eyes, her voice, the warmth of her hand on your chest, something inside you roars to life. You move faster than thought, ducking under the blade, your own sword, cutting upward in a desperate strike. The clash is deafening, your opponent falling with a grunt, and you're left standing, barely. Your chest heaves as you look down at the blood on your blade. It could have been yours. It would have been yours, if not for her. And you realize, with startling clarity, that you are not just surviving this war, you are surviving for her. After the skirmishes, when the battlefield is quiet and the fires of camp have been lit, you sit alone, staring at the horizon. Your armor is dented, your hands blistered and raw, but your mind is far away. You picture her standing by the window of her chambers, the moonlight spilling over her hair. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, you take out her letter and read it again by firelight. Her words, worn soft from your fingers, feel like a voice calling you home. You imagine her reading your last reply, the one where you swore to return. You wonder if she believes it, or if she fears, as you do, that the war might tear that promise apart. After a particularly brutal day of fighting, you sit at a small makeshift table in the camp, your sword still streaked with blood beside you. You find a piece of parchment, stained and crumpled, and you begin to write by the weak light of a lantern. Your hand trembles, but not from fear, from exhaustion, from longing. My queen, I survived today, though I do not know how. The world here is fire and steel, and sometimes I think I am more ghost than man. But then I think of you, and I feel alive. Again, your words are the only warmth I carry. Every time I lift my sword, it is not for the king's banner, but for you, for the thought of seeing you again, if only once. If I fall, and I pray I will not, know that I died with your name on my lips, and your memory as the last light I saw. You seal the letter with wax from the candle's flame, your hand steady despite the tremor in your chest. You give it to a messenger with strict orders. It must reach the castle, no matter the cost. That night, as you lie beneath the stars, your thoughts return to her. The camp is quiet, save for the soft crackle of dying fires and the occasional sound of a horse stamping the ground. The cold seeps into your bones, but her letter tucked against your chest is warm. You close your eyes and imagine her voice reading your own words back to you. You imagine her, whispering them as though she were there beside you, her breath soft against your ear. The thought lulls you to sleep, but not before one final vow echoes in your mind. I will survive. I will return. I will not leave her alone in that castle of wolves. The days roll on like a relentless tide. You fight, you bleed, you endure, and through it all, her presence stays with you, not physically, but in the quiet space between heartbeats, in the memory of her gaze. There are moments when despair creeps in, when the screams of the dying drown out everything else. But then you remember her letter, her promise that she is waiting, and the despair burns away, replaced by something stronger, something unbreakable. By the time the sun sets on yet another day of war, you know this truth with absolute clarity. You are no longer fighting for honor, not for glory. You are fighting for her, for the garden under the moonlight, for the quiet way she said your name, for the life you dream of beyond this battlefield. And that dream, fragile, forbidden, and impossibly beautiful, is what will bring you home. The war ends not with a trumpet blast, but with silence. It's the kind of silence that comes after too many battles, after too many men have fallen. A silence heavy enough to feel like a stone pressing down on your chest. The king's banners fly high over the conquered land, signaling victory. But to you, victory feels hollow. What is glory when all you can think of is her face? What is triumph when the only thing you've wanted through every battle and every sleepless night is to return to the castle where she waits? When the order comes to march home, relief and exhaustion wash over you at once. Your armor is dented, your sword chipped and dulled from weeks of fighting, but your spirit burns with one thought. You kept your promise. You survived. The journey back to the castle is both endless and too fast. Each day brings you closer to her, but each night your mind churns with questions. Will she still look at you the same way? Have the whispers of the court grown louder in your absence? Has Lord Harrow used your time away to coil his venom tighter around her? You picture her sitting alone in her chambers, waiting for news of the war. Did she receive your last letter? Did she cry when she read it? Did she fear, as you feared, that you might never return? The closer you get to the castle, the more restless you become. Your horse feels your tension shifting beneath you, as if sensing the storm of thoughts that rages inside. When the castle finally comes into view, rising from the morning mist like a memory-given shape, your chest tightens. You have dreamed of this sight for weeks. The tall towers, the familiar banners, the stone walls that once felt like a cage, but now feel like the only place that matters. The gates swing open with a creak of iron and a chorus of trumpets. Servants rush, line the courtyard, their voices a low hum of reverence as the king and his victorious knights enter. You dismount, your boots hitting the ground with a thud that feels heavier than it should. The courtyard is bustling, nobles in their finest clothes, advisors whispering among themselves, the smell of roasted meats drifting from the kitchens in celebration. Yet, despite the noise, your eyes scan for her, and then you see her. She stands at the top of the stone steps, dressed in pale gold, her hair braided and pinned with pearls that gleam in the sunlight. Her face is a perfect mask of grace and dignity, but her eyes are what undo you. For a moment, time stops. She looks at you, really looks, and you feel that same invisible thread between you pull taut. It's not just longing in her gaze now. It's relief. It's the kind of relief that says she's been holding her breath for weeks, and now, finally, she can breathe again. You want to run to her. You want to take her hand, to tell her that you are alive, that you never stopped thinking of her, even for a single heartbeat. But you can't. Not here. Not with every eye on you. So instead, you bow, a deep, respectful bow that hides the storm of emotion in your face. And when you rise, you see the faintest, smallest smile on her lips, a smile meant only for you. The celebrations that follow are loud and lavish, but to you they feel strange, almost suffocating. The king sits at the head of the feast, his booming laughter filling the great hall. He raises his goblet, praising the bravery of his knights, boasting of the battles won and the lands secured. You stand in the shadows near the doors, as is your place, watching. But something feels wrong. The court is different now, colder. Lord Harrow's presence looms like a shadow, his smile thin and sharp whenever he glances your way. He lingers near the queen, whispering in her ear during the feast, his tone dripping with false charm. She does not smile at him. She nods politely, but her gaze drifts just once to where you stand, and Harrow notices you. See it in the way his eyes narrow. You feel it in the air, like the prickling tension before a storm. Later that night, when the halls are quieter and the feast has ended, you find a brief moment to walk through the east garden. The roses are still there, their petals soft and glistening with dew. But the garden feels different now. It feels watched. You imagine her walking here while you were away, reading your letters by moonlight, longing for something as much as you did, and you wonder, will she meet you here again, or has the danger grown too sharp, too close? When you return to your quarters, you find a note waiting on your cot, folded small and slipped beneath your pillow. Your hands tremble as you unfold it, recognizing her handwriting instantly. You are home. I saw you. I wanted to run to you, but I could not. The court grows colder every day. Harrow whispers lies, and I fear he is planting poison in the king's ear. We must be careful, more careful than ever. But I am glad you are alive. That is enough for now. You sit there for a long time, the letter trembling between your fingers. Her words are both a balm and a wound. She saw you. She's glad you're alive. But the court is watching more closely now, and the danger feels closer than ever. You lie awake that night, staring at the ceiling, the faint glow of the moonlight spilling through the window. You survived, the battlefield, the chaos, the blood, the cold. But here, back in the Stassel, it feels as if you are stepping onto a different kind of battlefield, one where the weapons are not swords, but whispers, not arrows, but suspicion. And this time, the queen is not safe behind walls. She is standing in the very center of the storm. The castle, once familiar, now feels like a labyrinth of watching eyes. It's as though every corridor, every open doorway has grown ears. You can almost feel whispers following you like ghosts, brushing against your back and vanishing before you can turn to face them. When you left for war, the court was merely indifferent. Nobles going about their scheming, advisors muttering about taxes and alliances, servants bowing and scurrying like shadows. But now, since your return, everything feels sharper, colder. You can feel it every time you step into the great hall. The smiles are thinner, the laughter tighter, and the glances, especially the glances, linger too long. No one watches you as closely as Lord Harrow. He is a man with a serpent's charm, tall and lean, his dark hair streaked with silver, his eyes pale and piercing. He speaks softly, with the kind of voice that always sounds like it's hiding something sharp beneath the velvet of its tone. And lately, he's always near the queen. You see him at feasts, leaning too close to her. When he speaks, you see him in the gardens, pretending to admire the roses while his gaze shifts to her, like a predator circling prey. And when his pale eyes meet yours across the hall, he smiles, not warmly, but in that knowing way that sets your teeth on edge. You're certain he suspects. Whether he has proof or not, you don't know. But you can feel his attention wrapping around you like a noose. The queen is different now, too. Not because her feelings have changed. You can feel they haven't, but because she's forced to hide them. Her gaze, once soft when it found yours, across the hall is now fleeting, careful. She barely looks at you in public, her mask of calm, perfection unbroken. And yet, you see the tension in her shoulders when Harrow stands too close. You see her fingers tighten on the arm of her chair when the king leans in to speak to his advisor, no doubt listening to Harrow's poison. When she passes you in the corridors, she doesn't speak. She can't, but her sleeve brushes yours once, deliberately, a whisper of fabric that tells you she's still there, still yours, still waiting. The rumors begin to spread like smoke, curling through every corner of the castle. You overhear them in fragments, words snatched from the servants in the kitchens, from guards whispering during their rounds. Have you seen the way she looks at him, the young knight, always near the queen? Harrow says the king should keep a closer watch. The words are not loud enough to reach the king yet, but you know it's only a matter of time. Harrow is clever. He won't accuse directly, not until he's sure he can twist the knife without getting blood on his own hands. Instead, he plants seeds, seeds that grow in silence. One afternoon, as you're leaving the training yard, Sir Aldrich stops you. His face is as stern as ever, but his eyes are different, sharper, edged with concern. "Careful, boy," he mutters, low enough that only you can hear. "I've been hearing things, whispers, dangerous ones." Your jaw tightens. Whispers about what? He studies you for a long moment, about you and her. The words hit like a blade sliding under your armor. "They're lies," you say, too quickly. Aldrich's brow furrows. Lies or not, lies have a way of killing, faster than truth in a place like this. Don't give them reason to talk. Keep your head down, understand. You nod, but his warning lingers. because you know you can't keep your head down. Not when she's in the middle of this storm. That night, when the castle has settled into its restless silence, you find another note hidden in your chamber, slipped under the door so carefully it's almost invisible. Her handwriting leaps from the page like a heartbeat. They are watching. I hear Harrow's voice every day, whispering in the king's ear. I keep my face calm, but inside I feel the walls closing in. We must be careful. Night, do not look at me in the hall. Do not speak. But know this, I am with you, even in silence. I trust you more than anyone. Do not let fear break us. You read the note over and over until you know every curve of every letter. It's not just a warning, it's a lifeline, and it steals your resolve. The king begins to look at you differently. It's subtle, a second too long when his gaze sweeps the room, a pause before he speaks. Your name. At first, you think you're imagining it, but then it happens again during a feast. He raises his goblet in a toast, his eyes moving over the knights assembled at the table. And when they land on you, there's something there, a flicker of calculation. Harrow notices, of course. He always notices. The smirk on his face widens, as though the game is already his to win. The days grow heavier with each passing moment. You stop going to the gardens. You stop lingering near her in the halls. Every time you see her, your body aches to speak, to reach for her hand, to just let her know you're still there. But you can't. And yet, in the smallest ways, you both still find each other. A folded note hidden under a book left by the library doors, a single glance across the chapel when everyone else bows their heads, a moment when her sleeve brushes yours during a procession, her touch so quick and light that no one else would notice. But to you, it feels like a lightning strike. One evening, as the court gathers for a private dinner, Harrow corners you in the corridor. Outside the hall, his voice is smooth, but the malice beneath it is as sharp as a dagger. You've grown close to the queen, haven't you, knight? He says, his pale eyes studying your face. You stiffen, forcing your tone to remain cold and formal. I serve the queen as I serve the king, nothing more. He steps closer, his smile widening. Oh, of course, just as all knights do, but the way you look at her, and the way she looks at you. He tilts his head. The king notices. You know he won't tolerate disloyalty, not from her, and certainly not from you. The words dig deep, but you don't flinch. If you have something to say it to the king. You reply, your voice like steel. Harrow chuckles softly. Oh, I will, in time. Later that night, a final note arrives. Her handwriting is shaky, as though she wrote it in haste. Do not let him frighten you. I know Harrow. He wants to trap us with fear. But fear will not win. We will endure, as we always have. Wait for me. Soon we will find a way to meet again. Her words are fire in your veins. No matter what Harrow does, no matter what whispers spread through the court, you will not let them win. Not while she is still yours to protect. You know the storm is coming. You can feel it in the way the halls hum with gossip, in the way the king's gaze sharpens when it lands on you, in the way Harrow prowls like a wolf that smells blood. But you're ready. You've survived the battlefield. And now, for her, you'll survive this one too. The castle is never truly dark, even after the last torch has been extinguished. Even when the moon hides behind clouds, there is always a sense that someone is watching. The cold stone walls remember every whispered word, every secret breath. They keep the court's lies, its betrayals, its desires locked tight within their silence. And yet, tonight, you are willing to risk it all. It comes late in the evening, when the great hall is still alive with laughter and music from the king's feast. You are stationed at the far end of the corridor, standing like a shadow behind a line of guards. When a handmaiden slips past you, her steps as light as falling snow, she doesn't look at you. She doesn't have to. A small piece of parchment brushes your hand as she passes, as silent as a kiss. You wait until the corridor is clear before unfolding it, heart pounding, as though it already knows what it will find. Her handwriting curves across the page in delicate strokes. Tonight, after the bells, the East Tower, no crown, no title, no signature, just those words. And yet they are enough to set your blood on fire. When the feast finally ends and the castle begins to quiet, you make your move. Every step you take through the shadowed hallways feels louder than thunder, though in truth your boots barely whisper against the stones. You know the guards' rotations, their blind spots. You know which corridors the moonlight avoids. You pass by the great hall, now empty, save for the echoes of laughter and spilled wine, and climb the narrow stairs toward the East Tower. The air grows colder the higher you go, the silence pressing in on you. Your hand rests on the hilt of your sword, not because you expect a fight, but because it steadies you. Your heart is beating too fast, your thoughts spinning too quickly. You survived battlefields, but this is the moment that feels like war of a different kind. She is already there when you arrive. The tower chamber is dimly lit, a single candle flickering on a wooden table. The window is open, and moonlight spills across the stone floor like silver water. She stands by the window, her cloak falling from her shoulders, her gown pale and soft, as though woven from moonlight itself. When she turns and sees you, the breath catches in your throat. She is not wearing the mask of the queen tonight. No crown, no heavy jewels. She is just her, the woman who wrote you letters filled with longing, the woman who waited for you through every day of the war, the woman whose name lives in your heartbeat. You came, she whispers, her voice soft and trembling, though not from fear. Always, you say, it is the only answer there could ever be. For a moment, neither of you moves. You just look at each other, the silence between you thick with everything you can't say. Then, slowly, carefully, you step closer. Her breath trembles as you lift your hand, hesitant but unable to stop yourself. You brush your fingers along hers, the smallest touch, but enough to make her close her eyes. She doesn't pull away. She steps closer, instead, until there is no space between you, and then she's in your arms. The world falls away. The court, the king, Harrow's watchful eyes. None of it exists in this moment. There is only the warmth of her body against yours, the scent of roses and parchment in her hair, the steady beat of her heart beneath your palm. You hold her like she might vanish if you let go, like the night itself might swallow her if you blink. And she holds you too, her fingers gripping the back of your tunic, as if she's afraid this is just another dream. I thought I would lose you, she says quietly, her face pressed against your shoulder. Every day of the war, I imagined hearing the news that you had fallen. I prayed, though I'm not sure who I was praying to, that I would see you again. You kept me alive. You answer your voice, rough. Every battle, every moment I thought I couldn't go on. I remembered your letters. I remembered your voice. I fought, not for the king, not for glory, but for this, for you. She pulls back just enough to look at you, her eyes shining in the candlelight. You can't say things like that, she whispers, though the tremble of her lips tells you she wants to hear it again. If someone heard, no one will hear. You say firmly, no one will know. But I will not lie to you. I would risk everything for this, for one night like this, for you. She closes her eyes and leans her forehead against yours. It's such a simple thing, but it feels like the most sacred moment of your life. You stay like that for a long time, neither of you speaking, just breathing in the quiet night air. When you finally pull back, her hand lingers against your cheek. This cannot last, she says softly, and there's sorrow in her voice. The court will not stop watching. Harrow will not stop whispering. Then let them whisper, you say, your hand covering hers. We will be careful, but I will not let fear steal this from us, not tonight. She smiles then, a small, broken, beautiful smile, and for a heartbeat it feels like the rest of the world has ceased to exist. The night passes in fragments of quiet conversation, of glances that last too long, of hands brushing and holding just enough to burn without being reckless. You talk about everything and nothing, her life in the castle, your memories of the war, the dreams you both hold but cannot name aloud. Sometimes the silence is enough. You sit together by the window, watching the moon drift across the sky, knowing that when the dawn comes, you'll have to part again. But for now, there is only this moment, fragile, fleeting, and worth more than any crown. When the first light of dawn begins to bleed into the sky, you know it's time to leave. She rises from where she's been sitting beside you, her face pale but resolute. Promise me, she says, her voice firm despite the tremble in it. Promise me we'll find a way through this, no matter what the court does, no matter what Harrow says. You take her hand, pressing it to your chest, where your heart beats strong and sure. I promise, you say. Even if the whole world turns against us, I will find my way back to you. She holds your gaze, her eyes glistening, and for a moment it feels like a vow that binds you both tighter than any law or oath. You leave the tower just as the castle begins to stir, slipping back into your chambers as the servants light the first torches of the morning. The scent of her lingers on your clothes, her warmth still clinging to your skin. You know the danger is worse now, that Harrow's eyes will be sharper, that the king's suspicion might grow. But none of it matters, because after this night, after holding her in your arms, you know one thing with absolute certainty: you cannot and will not let her go. The morning after the stolen night feels different. The castle's air is colder, sharper, as though it knows something it shouldn't. The stone corridors, which once felt like silent observers, now feel like they are whispering your secret to anyone who walks by. You keep your head down, your armor polished, your steps careful, but inside, your heart is still full of the warmth of her embrace, of the way she whispered your name like it was a promise. You thought the war was your greatest battle, but now you realize the battlefield has simply changed. There are no swords here, no banners, no horns. Here the weapons are whispers, glances, and smiles that cut deeper than blades. You first sense it in the great hall. The court is gathered for a midday council, the king seated on his throne with the weight of power resting on his broad shoulders. The queen sits beside him poised and serene, her face the perfect mask of grace. You stand at your post by the doors, every muscle taut, your gaze forward, but you can feel Harrow's eyes on you, like a hawk circling prey. Lord Harrow leans close to the king, murmuring something you cannot hear. The king frowns, his hand tightening around the arm of his throne, and for a moment his gaze sweeps the hall, stopping on you. It's only a glance, but it's enough to make your pulse quicken. Then Harrow moves. He steps away from the dais, his long, dark robes trailing behind him as he approaches your station. His smile is thin, almost pleasant, but there's poison in it. "Sir Knight," he says, his tone smooth as polished glass, "might I borrow a moment of your time?" You nod stiffly and follow him into the corridor, every step ringing like a warning bell. When you are far enough from the hall, Harrow turns, his hands clasped behind his back, his face the very image of calm calculation. "You've been busy since your return," he begins, his voice quiet but laced with meaning. "The king speaks highly of your skill in battle. A fine soldier, they say, loyal, obedient. I serve the crown," you reply, keeping your voice level, though every muscle in your body is tense. "Ah," Harrow says, with a soft chuckle. "The crown. A fine thing, isn't it? Heavy on some heads, lighter on others. But I wonder." He tilts his head slightly, his pale eyes glinting. "Where does your loyalty truly lie?" You meet his gaze, unflinching, with the king and with the kingdom. He smiles wider, but it's not the kind of smile that brings warmth. It's the kind that feels like a knife, of course. "And yet, I've noticed something. The way your eyes wander, the way the queen's eyes return that gaze. It's quite the spectacle, if one knows how to look for it. The silence that follows is suffocating. You can feel the weight of his words pressing down, each one a step closer to the truth you cannot let him touch. You have a dangerous look about you, Sir Knight," Harrow continues, his voice dropping lower, "a look that could be misunderstood. You know how the king despises betrayal. Even a hint of impropriety, a whisper, a rumor, could be enough to see a man lose his head, or worse. Your jaw tightens. If you have something to say, my lord, say it plainly." Harrow's chuckle is cold. "Plainly, very well. I see you, Knight. I see the way you linger near her, the way your face hardens when I speak to her. You forget your place. And if I were to whisper such thoughts to the king, what do you think would happen to you, or to her? The threat is clear. He's testing you, pushing to see if he can make you break. You step forward, closing the space between you just enough that he can see the steel in your eyes. You will keep her name out of your mouth, you say quietly, your voice steady but edged with fire. If you wish to play your games, do so elsewhere. But if you speak a single word that harms her, I swear on my life, you will regret it." Harrow doesn't flinch. Instead, his smile widens, cold and calculating. "Ah, there it is, the fire. You wear your heart like armor, but it's cracking. Be careful, Knight. You don't want to give me reason to test its strength." When you return to the hall, the queen is watching you. Her face is as calm as ever, but her eyes are storm clouds. She sees Harrow returning behind you, that thin smile still on his lips, and you can tell she knows. Later that evening, when you return to your quarters, you find another note waiting for you, tucked under your pillow. Her words are hurried, the ink slightly smudged, as though she wrote it with shaking hands. "I fear, Harrow, I fear what he sees. We must be cautious more than ever, but please, do not lose yourself to anger. We must be smarter than him. I need you to be careful, not just for me, but for us. You hold the letter, your chest tightening. She's right. This is not a battle you can fight with steel. This is a game of shadows, and Harrow is a master of it. That night, you stand at the window of your quarters, looking out at the darkened courtyard below. The torches flicker in the wind, their flames thin and restless. You think of her, alone in her chambers, her crown feeling heavier by the day. You think of Harrow whispering poison into the king's ear. You survive the battlefield by fighting with your sword. But this will require something even harder. You will have to fight with patience, with silence, with cunning, all while the woman you love stands in the very center of the storm. And no matter how dangerous it becomes, you know this. You are not letting go of her. Not now, not ever. The night air is colder now, sharp as a blade, and the castle feels different, tighter, as though the walls themselves are listening. Since your confrontation with Harrow, every corridor feels like a trap, every shadow like an eye. You move carefully, keeping your posture calm, but the weight of his threat presses against your chest like armor that is too heavy to bear. Then, just after the bells toll for the midnight watch, a handmaiden slips a folded piece of parchment under your door. You recognize the writing before you even touch it. I must see you one last time before this grows too dangerous. Tonight, the East Tower. Her words are firm, but you can sense the tremble beneath them. Fear mixed with urgency. You don't hesitate. The climb to the East Tower feels longer than ever. The stairs are steep, spiraling, and each step creaks faintly in the silence. You know the risks. Harrow's spies are everywhere, and the king's trust is brittle as glass. But you cannot ignore her plea. You would walk into fire itself if she asked. When you reach the top, you find her waiting by the window, bathed in moonlight. She is dressed simply, without her crown, her hair loose and falling across her shoulders like a dark river. Her hands rest on the stone sill, but when she sees you, her face softens, and for a moment, you forget the danger. You came, she whispers. Always, you answer, just as you did before. But tonight, the word feels heavier. She doesn't smile. Instead, she moves closer, her eyes wide and shadowed with worry. Harrow is growing bolder, she says quietly, her voice trembling in a way you've never heard before. He speaks to the king every day. I don't know what lies he's telling, but I can see it. The king is beginning to look at me differently. And you, her voice catches, and she glances down. Don't know how much longer we can hide this. You take her hands in yours, gently but firmly. We will hide it as long as we must. Harrow cannot prove anything. He plays with words, but we have nothing to give him. She shakes her head, her grip tightening on your fingers. You don't understand. Harrow doesn't need proof. He just needs to plant enough doubt. And when the king doubts, he doesn't ask questions. He acts. Her eyes meet yours, and you see the fear there. Not for herself, but for you. Promise me, she says, her voice breaking slightly. Promise me that if Harrow tries to trap you, you won't fight him with anger. You'll survive. You'll live, even if it means stepping back. I cannot lose. You want to tell her that you'd fight the entire court for her, that you'd face the king's wrath with a sword in hand and a smile on your lips. But when you see the way her lips tremble, the way her eyes shine with unshed tears. The words die in your throat. I promise, you say, your voice low but certain. I will be careful. I will endure. But I will never leave you. Not unless you tell me to. Her breath trembles as she exhales, and she presses her forehead lightly against yours. I could never tell you to leave me, she whispers, even if it would save us both. I am too weak for that. The tower is so quiet that you can hear both your heartbeats, quick, uneven, tangled together. In the same rhythm, you hold her hands, feeling how delicate they are, yet how strong. She's been strong for so long, carrying the weight of a crown and a kingdom. But here, in this moment, she lets herself be just a woman. You reach up, brushing a strand of hair from her face, and she leans into your touch, as though it's the only thing anchoring her. Sometimes, I wish I were just a girl in a village, she says softly. Someone no one would notice. Someone who could love without fear. And sometimes you reply, I wish I were just a soldier with no oath, no duty, nothing but a simple life. But if I were, I might never have met you, and I would not trade a single glance from you for all the peace in the world. She steps closer then, and you pull her into your arms. The embrace is fierce, almost desperate, as though both of you know how close the storm is to breaking. Her head rests against your shoulder, and you can feel the warmth of her breath against your neck. If this ends badly, she starts to say, but you stop her with a shake of your head. It won't, you say firmly. We will be careful. We will be clever. We will endure as we have until now. Her fingers curl against your chest, as though trying to memorize the feel of you. I believe you, she whispers, but her voice trembles. I have to. The first light of dawn begins to creep over the horizon, painting the sky in pale shades of gray and gold. You both know you must part. Lingering too long would mean danger. You step back, reluctantly, your hands still clinging to hers until the last possible moment. Be careful, she says, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. Harrow will not stop, and the king, if he turns against you, I don't know what I'll do. I will be careful, you promise, but Harrow will not break me, not while I have you to fight for. As you slip back down the tower stairs, your heart still pounding, you glance once over your shoulder. She stands by the window, her figure framed by the pale dawn light, watching you leave. There is something unspoken in her gaze, not just fear, not just longing, but a plea. You carry that look with you as you step back into the waking castle, the whispers of the court already stirring like a restless wind, and you swear silently that you will not let them take this from you. Back in your quarters, you sit for a long time, staring at the place where her last letter lies hidden. You know the storm is coming. Harrow will push harder. The king will listen. And when that moment comes, you will have to make a choice. Not between love and loyalty, but between survival and the truth of your heart. And you already know which you will choose. Her. Always her. The days that follow the queen's plea feel like walking on a knife's edge. The court has grown colder, sharper, like a predator circling, waiting for the right moment to strike. You can feel it in the way the servants quiet when you enter a room, in the way the nobles glance at one another, with knowing smirks whenever the queen's name is spoken. And Harrow is everywhere. He moves like a shadow through the halls, whispering poison into every ear that will listen. He no longer hides his gaze when he looks at you. There's no politeness, no pretense, only the thin smile of a man who knows he's winning. The king begins to summon you more often. At first, it's 4 simple reports, updates on the guards, on the state of the walls, on matters of security. But his tone is different now. His questions are slower, heavier. "Where were you last night?" he asks once, his deep voice echoing through the nearly empty throne room. "On patrol, Your Majesty," you answer, bowing. "Lo, are you sure?" His gaze lingers, sharp as a blade. "I trust my knights, but trust is a fragile thing, Sir Knight, and I do not tolerate disloyalty." The word strikes like an arrow. It's not a question, it's a warning. You bow again, forcing your voice to remain steady. "You will have no cause to doubt my loyalty, my king." But even as you speak, you see Harrow standing nearby, his pale eyes glittering with triumph. That night, another letter arrives, this one smudged and hurried, as though written in the dark, with trembling hands. "The king asked me questions about you today." Harrow was there, watching. I could feel his satisfaction, like a blade pressing against my throat. "We must stop meeting, at least for now. I cannot risk you. Promise me, my knight. Promise me you will stay alive, even if it means stepping away from me. I could not bear to see you fall because of me." Her words slice deeper than any wound you've taken in battle. She's asking for something you cannot give. Step away. Pretend that the nights in the garden, the letters, the whispers between you never happened. How can you do that when every beat of your heart is hers? It comes 2 days later. You're called to a private council with the king, where Harrow waits like a spider at the center of its web. The king's voice is calm, but there's steel beneath it. "Sir Knight," he says, leaning forward on his throne, "there have been whispers of impropriety, of betrayal, between you and my queen." Your heart stops. Every instinct screams at you to deny it, to protest, but your body remains still. You force yourself to meet the king's gaze. "They are lies, Your Majesty." "Are they?" Harrow interjects smoothly, his voice dripping with false pity. Perhaps the young knight does not even realize how close he stands, how much his admiration shows. People see things. My king, I see things. The king's eyes narrow. "You are loyal to me, are you not?" "Yes," you say firmly. "I have shed blood for this kingdom. I would give my life for it, and for you." Harrow steps closer, then prove it. The king's gaze shifts between you and Harrow, his jaw tightening. "You will not speak to her unless I command it. You will not meet her alone. And if I hear so much as a whisper of disobedience." He lets the threat hang in the air, heavy and suffocating. Harrow smiles faintly, as though the victory is already his. You bow low, your hands clenched into fists, as you command Your Majesty. But as you walk from the room, your chest feels as though it's been hollowed out, to cut you off, to force you to choose between the woman you love and the oath you swore. That night, you pace your chamber, her letters spread out before you like fragile pieces of your heart. Every word she wrote is a reminder of what you're fighting for and of what you stand to lose. If you obey the king, you'll live, but you'll lose her. If you defy him, you'll be ruined, and you'll drag her down with you. There is no safe path now, only choices that lead to pain. Just before dawn, when the castle is still, a soft knock comes at your door. You open it to find her there, cloaked. "I had to see you," she says, her voice trembling. I heard what Harrow did, what the king said. I won't let them do this to you. I won't. You shouldn't be here, you whisper. But you can't bring yourself to send her away. She steps inside, closing the door behind her. For a long moment, neither of you speaks. You simply stand there, looking at each other, the weight of the world pressing down on you both. I would rather fall with you, she says softly, than live a life where I pretend I don't feel this. Her words break something inside you. You take her hands in yours, holding them as though they are the last solid thing in the world. Then we'll face whatever comes, you say together. The dawn light creeps through the window, painting her face in gold and shadow. You brush your fingers across her cheek, memorizing the feel of her skin, knowing it might be the last time you have her like this. Whatever happens, you whisper, I will not let them take you from me. Not Harrow, not even the king. She leans her forehead against yours, her breath warm and unsteady. Then we must be careful. We must be stronger than them all. Promise me you'll survive no matter what they try. I promise, you say. But I promise something else, too. I will never stop fighting for you. When she finally leaves, slipping back into the corridors before the castle wakes, you stand at the window, watching the sunrise. The light spills across the stones like fire, and you know that the next few days will bring the hardest battle you've ever faced. This time, there will be no swords. This time, the war will be fought in shadows, with whispers, with choices that might cost everything. But you have already made your decision. You will not let her go. The castle feels different now, tense, restless, as though every stone knows something is about to break. Whispers snake through the halls like smoke, curling into every corner you can. Feel the weight of suspicion pressing in from all sides. Harrow's voice lingers in every chamber, every word of his poisonous counsel echoing in the king's ear. The king has grown colder. His gaze, once proud when he looked at his knights, now feels sharp and searching whenever it lands on you. It's only a matter of time. You can see it in his eyes, the doubt, the anger, slowly building. Harrow has succeeded in planting the seeds. All he needs now is a spark to set them alight. You know the spark could be you. It comes in the middle of the night. A handmaiden knocks softly at your door, her face pale under the torchlight. She doesn't speak, but she presses a folded parchment into your hand and bows before hurrying away. You unfold it, heart pounding, and see her writing. We cannot wait any longer. Meet me in the East Tower tonight. If we do not choose now, they will choose for us. The words are short, urgent. There's no room left for hesitation. You move like a shadow through the silent halls, every step deliberate, every breath held. The moonlight pools on the stone floors, turning them pale and cold. You pass guards, but none see you. You know their patterns too well by now. When you climb the final stair to the East Tower, you find her waiting, cloaked in midnight blue, her hood drawn low, but her eyes bright even in the dim light. She looks at you as though she's been holding her breath for hours, and only now can she let it out. You came, she whispers, and though it's just 2 words, they sound like relief, like hope, like the last piece of courage she needed. Always, you say the same word. You've spoken a dozen times before, but tonight it feels heavier, as though it carries the weight of every vow you've made to her. She steps closer, her hands trembling slightly as they reach for yours. Harrow will not stop, she says. her voice urgent. He's already told the king things, lies, half-truths, but enough to make the king watch us like a wolf watches prey. We have no time left. What are you saying, you ask? Though you already know. She takes a deep breath, her gaze locking with yours. We have two choices. We leave now, tonight, before Harrow can trap us, before the king acts, or her voice falters, or we end this, before they can use it against us, before they destroy you. The words hang between you like a blade. End this. Walk away from her, from everything you've fought for, everything you've risked your life to protect. The very thought is unbearable, and yet the alternative is no less dangerous. To stay, to continue this forbidden love would mean defying the king himself. It would mean treason and death. If we run, you say quietly, they will come after us. You know they will. The king will never let you go, not as his queen. I don't care, she whispers fiercely, her fingers tightening on yours. What is the point of a crown, of a throne, if I cannot breathe, if I cannot love? You look into her eyes and see the truth there. The weight of years spent as a prisoner in her own life, a queen, bound by chains no one else can see. She would give it all up, the jewels, the power, the courtly whispers, just for a chance to live freely by your side. But could you ask her to do that? Could you condemn her to a life on the run, forever hunted by the crown she once wore? The silence stretches. The moonlight paints her face in silver and shadow, highlighting the quiet strength in her features. She looks at you as though she's memorizing every line of your face, as though she doesn't know if she'll see you again. If you tell me to go, you say softly, I'll walk away and never breathe a word of this. You'll be safe. But don't ask me to stop loving you. I couldn't, even if I tried. Her breath trembles, and her lips part as if to speak, but no words come. Instead, she steps closer and presses her forehead to yours. I don't want you to go, she whispers. Not now, not ever. Your arms wrap around her, holding her tightly, as though you can shield her from the entire world. And in that embrace, you both know the truth. You cannot let this end, no matter the danger. She pulls back, her hands still on your chest. Then we must find another way. We cannot stay here, not as we are, but we cannot simply vanish either. I will speak to one of my trusted handmaidens. There may be a way to slip away during the spring festival. Everyone will be distracted, and the gates will be open. It's risky, foolish even, but it's the only plan that feels like hope. I'll be ready, you say, your voice steady. Whatever it takes, we'll make it out together. But before you leave, before you return to the danger of the court, she leans in and kisses you, softly, as though she's afraid the world might shatter around you if she presses too hard. It's the first kiss, and it's everything. The letters, the glances, the whispers, all of it woven into a single moment that burns like fire in your chest. When she pulls back, her eyes glisten. No matter what happens, she says, her voice breaking slightly. You are my heart, always, and you are mine, you reply, the words firm, unshaken. As you leave the tower, the first pale light of dawn creeps over the horizon. The world feels both alive and fragile, as if every breath, every step could be the last before the storm breaks. You know Harrow will not stop. The king's suspicion will only grow, but you also know this. You will not let this love be destroyed, not by fear, not by power, not by anyone. You have made your decision. You will fight for her, or fall, trying. The castle is quieter now. It's strange, almost unsettling, how silence can feel heavier than the loudest battle cries. You stand alone in the East Garden, the place where everything began, and the roses seem different. They're the same pale blooms, their petals soft with morning dew, but they feel like living echoes of the moments you once shared here, moments that feel both yesterday and a lifetime ago. The fountain murmurs softly, the water catching the first gold light of dawn. You remember the nights when this fountain was the only witness to your stolen glances, your trembling hands, and whispered promises. Now, as you stand here, it feels like the world has shifted, like the garden is remembering with you. You've faced battlefields drenched in blood, heard the clash of swords and the cries of dying men, but none of it compares to this quiet, this absence. Because the hardest war is not fought with steel, it is fought with memory, with the ghosts of what you loved. Your heart still carries her. Every word she wrote, every glance she gave you, every breath you shared in the moonlight. It's all there, carved into you like a scar that will never fade. You close your eyes and see her as she was that last night in the tower, her cloak falling from her shoulders, her eyes filled with a fire that burned brighter than any crown. You can still feel the softness of her kiss, the warmth of her voice as she said, "You are my heart always." If this is the path where you stayed, where you didn't run, you've learned to wear silence like armor. You stand in the shadows of the court, your face blank, your heart hidden, while the queen smiles as though nothing has ever passed between you. But you see it in her eyes, in the way her gaze lingers for just one heartbeat longer than it should. A reminder that even if the world forgets, you will not. If this is the path where you escaped, the memory is different, a softer pain, but still sharp. You remember the sound of hooves pounding against the earth as you rode through the dark, the wind tearing through your hair, her arms wrapped tightly around you. You remember how the castle lights faded behind you, how the stars seemed to blaze brighter the farther you went. Either way, you know this. Her love is the reason you're still breathing. Whether you are here, standing alone in the garden, or somewhere far away, the memory of her is what keeps your heart alive. You still have her letters, the fragile pieces of parchment covered with her graceful handwriting. Some of the ink is faded now, smudged by the touch of your fingers and the wear of time. You unfold one of them, the one you read the most, the one that says, "Do you still feel the warmth of my hand? Come back to me, my knight, come back, with your heart still beating, with your eyes still shining the way they did when you looked at me in the moonlight." You run your thumb over the words as though you could touch her through the ink. For a moment, you almost believe you can. You walk slowly around the garden, each step heavy with memory. Here, by the fountain, is where you first touched her hand, by the rose arch, where she first smiled at you with that secret smile no one else ever saw, under the moonlit path where you swore, silently but truly, that you would protect her, even if it meant losing everything. The garden has changed, but so have you. You are no longer the young knight who walked through these paths with wide eyes and a heart unguarded. You are harder now, quieter, but your heart still belongs to her. It always will. If this path ended in parting, if you were forced to let her go, you remember that final moment, like a wound that never heals, her hand slipping from yours. The way her lips trembled, whispered, "Live for me, even if you cannot stay, live for me." You wonder if she still thinks of you when the court is quiet, when the king is gone, and the candlelight flickers against her window. You wonder if she still dreams of the garden and the fountain and the letters that once carried your love like secret fire. If this is the path where you escaped, the reflection is different, not less bittersweet, but softer. You think of the nights when the two of you rode under open skies, free from walls and whispers, how her laughter sounded when she could finally breathe without fear, how her hand in yours felt not just forbidden, but right. You don't know what the future holds. You only know that as long as she is by your side, you are home. No matter where the road takes you, you kneel by the fountain, your hand dipping into the cool water, and you speak softly, as if the garden itself is listening. "I will keep my promise," you whisper, "whether in silence or in freedom, whether apart or together, I will keep it, always." The wind stirs the roses, their petals, falling gently onto the water's surface, and for just a moment, it feels like she's there, her voice. Years from now, when the court has changed and the walls have forgotten your name, you will still remember. Not the battles, not the victories, not the heavy weight of the king's commands, but her. The way she looked at you like no one else ever did. The way she made you feel alive in a world built on duty and silence. And when the night is quiet, you will close your eyes and find her again in memory, in the garden of whispers, by the fountain where your story began. And you will know that this love, forbidden though it was, will outlive the walls of this castle, the whispers of the court, and even time itself. They say that some stories are too dangerous to be written down. They live instead in whispers, passed from one generation to the next, softened by time, but never forgotten. Yours is one of those stories. The court may never speak your name. The king may have erased every trace of your presence, and the walls of the castle may stand silent, hiding the truth within their stones. But the memory of what you and the queen shared, it lives on like a quiet fire that refuses to die. The people in the villages tell it differently, each version colored by rumor and longing. Some say you were the queen's secret protector, a knight who swore loyalty to her heart rather than her crown. Others whisper that you fled together under the cover of darkness, your horses carrying you to a distant land where no king's command could reach you. But all the stories agree on one thing, that what you shared was not the kind of love born from courtly games or fleeting glances. It was a love that burned quietly and fiercely, like the glow of embers in the darkest night. A love that would rather risk ruin than fade into silence. In the castle, there is still a garden, the East Garden, where it all began. The roses bloom every spring, their petals soft and bright against the gray stone walls. Servants say that if you stand by the fountain at night, when the moonlight turns the water silver, you can almost hear the echoes of soft voices. You can almost feel the warmth of two hands brushing, two hearts beating as one. They call it the Garden of Whispers now. Some say the queen still walks there when the court is sleeping, her fingers brushing the roses as though she's searching for someone only she can see. Others believe she planted a single white rose by the fountain, a rose that never wilts, even in winter, as a silent vow to the knight who once held her heart. And what of you, the knight who loved her. Some believe you left the castle to protect her from the storm of suspicion, that you wandered the borderlands, a nameless guardian, watching the horizon but always carrying her memory like a shield. Others say you returned to her side in secret, your love hidden from the world but no less real. They say that every smile she wore in public, every quiet glance across the hall, carried a secret meant only for you. Perhaps they will never know the truth. Perhaps the truth doesn't matter. What matters is that the story remains. Years will pass. The court will change. New kings will rise. New wars will be fought. But your love, your secret, dangerous and beautiful love, will remain in the quiet places, in the rustle of the rose bushes, in the ripple of the fountain's water, in the hush of moonlit corridors. They will call it a legend. They will say, once there was a queen who loved a knight, and a knight who loved her beyond reason, beyond fear, beyond time itself. And maybe, one day, when the castle has crumbled and the garden is nothing but wildflowers, someone will still tell your story by the firelight, because a love like yours does not die. It only waits as you stand by the fountain, the wind stirring the roses around you. You make the vow one last time. I will love you, you whisper to the night. In this life and every life after, in every story they tell, I will find you, and I will love you again. The garden is silent, but the moonlight shines brighter, as though it carries your words, sending them to wherever she is, to her heart, which will always, always know your name.